It's 7 o'clock in Southern California, and time for the Thursday night D-Star Roundtable for March 16th, 2017. This is Mike in 6HKH, your net control. This roundtable is held every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on XRF 002 Alpha and a constellation of X reflectors, including XRF 310A, XRF 555 Alpha, and our multi-protocol repeater, XL reflector, XLX 212 Alpha. This is a technical net dedicated to D-Star and open source digital modes. Using a round-table format, we encourage discussion of topics of interest involving D-Star, which includes questions and answers, offering expertise, examining various aspects of open-source digital communications, and other similar topics and matters. Everyone is welcome to participate. This roundtable is a group effort, so we encourage everyone to key up and join a discussion, start a topic, or ask a question. And the way you do that is you key up or key down, I guess. Some people might like to think it, but I think of it, but I call it key up, and everybody knows what that means. Just key up when I call for stations. Please remember to not quick key or tailgate. I will pause regularly to let you key up, and I ask that participating stations do the same. We don't take formal check-ins, and we don't do a roll call to give us more time to talk D-Star. But you're welcome to check in to say hello and let everyone know what's new with you and your D-Star station, especially if things are a bit slow. If you lose audio, please just wait. Audio usually resumes in a few moments. We ask that stations not key down to check their connection. That is, don't start chunking or start to call for me. Remember that stations may be talking during your audio loss. Or by that we mean that the audio loss could be on your end, or it could be an internet interruption on your side. In any event, just be patient and wait for the audio to return. Now, if you were talking at the time of the audio loss, I will I keep track of, actually I listen to everything everybody says, despite the thought that I may be running up and down the hall and making a sandwich, going to the bathroom, going outside to check on things. Actually, I listen to every word, and I'm pretty good at letting you know where you left off, so you can pick it up once we get you back in there. Net Control is online at roundtable.tech. Roundtable, that's all one word, .tech, T-E-C-H. There you'll find the forum's real-time chat feature called the Shoutbox, which you can use to contact me as well as to post information relevant to the topic at hand, such as links and quick notes. And for those of you who use the Shoutbox on a regular basis, you know that we really would like to have the URLs, DNSs, and other web locations of either sites or documents or whatever that you'd like us to take a look at or you're referring to, posted in the Shoutbox so that everyone can have the information correctly. Simply asking me to copy down a lengthy and sometimes gobbledygook style web address promotes inaccuracy and causes people to ask me to repeat it. And also remember that a lot of people listen to this net on a recorded basis. That is, they're not with us right now. They will be with us later on. So their ability to go to the Shoutbox and to find that DNS link and to click on it or copy and paste it is really very important, and I get a lot of compliments for that. So if I ask you to go to the Shoutbox and post that address for the for whatever website or document you're wanting us to take a look at, please do so. It's real easy. You don't have to register. You don't have to do anything. Just go down to the text entry box at the bottom of the page on the landing page and type it in. And if you do this on a regular basis, you'll see a button right above that allows you to do some editing, but you can also create a link so the link is live, and that's pretty cool. So it just makes it easier for everybody. So the location of our Thursday night D-Star Roundtable Forum board, where you'll find the shout box, is at Roundtable. This is all you have to type in the address field of your favorite browser. Just type in Roundtable, all one word, .tech, T-E-C-H, then bookmark it, and you'll be ready to go. Now, if you peruse the Roundtable Forum board, you'll find that there are many gatherings of references and links and topic discussions and all kinds of stuff. Feel free to go in there and find something of interest. You can add to that is replied to a topic posting, or you can start a new one of your own. You have to register to do that, but that takes 15 seconds, and rarely, in fact, nothing actually happens as a result of it. By that I mean nothing bad happens, at least nothing's been brought to my attention by registering. We don't sell your name and call and address and stuff like that, so feel free, and if you feel shy about doing that is registering on the Roundtable Forum board, let me know why, and I'll try to find a way to overcome it. We don't want people to be fearful of something like that. Now, so you got Roundtable.tech, Roundtable's all one word, .tech, you're all set to go. If you're listening to the podcast of this net, you can follow along with us on the Roundtable Forum by looking at the shout box for tonight that's going to be how to listen to us, what reflectors are available, where to go, what to do, and more specifically, where you can find recorded versions, live links, that is live streaming, and all of the reflectors that are part of the constellation, as we call it, that is part of this Roundtable Forum, is on the top of the landing page at, guess what, roundtable.tech. Take a look at that, and you'll learn a lot about where you can be and listen to us now, listen to us later. You know, the more lobby at the conclusion of this net. And the shout box history is right above the general Roundtable discussion board. Remember, too, that we're available on Broadcastify as a live stream. The best place to look to find out how you like it, because obviously if everybody's listening to a recording, we're not going to get a lot of stations that are keying up and participating, but you know, we understand it. This is an availability thing, and most people seem to think it's a pretty good deal. Anyway, what else? As I go back through my notes, I think that's about it. I don't think there's anything else going on. Now, the shout box is open 24/7 while it's being used tonight, pretty much for you know, posts and information to me and other things. We sometimes disseminate things that are happening here behind the scenes on the shout box, and you can see a couple of posts already, one of which we will talk about. If you go to the top of that, to current discussions, you'll find a series of discussions that, well, they're current, and they're really ongoing. They're not really appropriate for a chat-style shout box. So we ask the stations go one more click to the current discussions folder and start a topic or move a topic there that would be a continuing thing. And the reason for it is that the current discussions folder, nothing's lost in there, whereas on the shout box, I mean, that's after 20 posts, it scrolls off the screen and you can't retrieve it. We do for purposes of the shout box history. And also, it's scraped up and copied and pasted to the shout box history at the end of the night, and so what might be an interesting discussion for some is lost. And by lost, I mean that there really isn't a good way to continue a discussion on. So, and if you look into, let's see. All right, back to the shout box. There we go. We got a third one. So take a look at that to see what's being posted thus far. First up on tonight's roundtable, as always, is 60 seconds of D-Star Basics. And 60 seconds of D-Star Basics tonight is going to talk a little bit about the protocol of facing and informing others of R2-D2. So, if you're new to D-Star, and this is, of course, what we're doing here is talking about the basics. When you have the disruptive, garbly style communication, I think everybody understands what R2-D2 is. It's a description of what people would think R2-D2 might sound like if that character or device was here on D-Star. That's a great way of describing that you didn't get the communication because of lost packets or for other reasons. So, what do? Do you just confront the other station and accuse them of being R2-D2? We hear that a lot. Hey, you're R2-D2. That probably is not the best approach. Do you tell the other station, hey, you better start making adjustments, get outside, move the antenna, get up on the roof, turn up the power? That's probably not a good idea either, because do you know, truly, that the R2-D2 is on his end and not on yours? So, some of these R2-D2 accusation conversations can get somewhat nasty and can be embarrassing to listen to, and there really isn't any good reason to start that, especially when you might be dealing with a new person or a station new to D-Star. You don't want him getting out his side cutters and starting to chop up the connections he made for his new D-Star setup. So instead, the better thing to do would be to just simply say, hey, I didn't understand all that you said, or I didn't get your entire transmission because I had R2-D2. Could you please repeat it? It's really that simple. And if you want, you could say, as I sometimes do, hey, unfortunately, R2-D2 got into your signal. I'm not sure whose end it's on. It may be mine, but would you mind trying it again? The bottom line is just don't assume that the other station must be R2-D2 unless you know that that is so, because you might be R2-D2. What about if the other station comes back and says, no, I'm hearing you R2-D2, so it must be on your end? Instead, just don't make it a big issue. Now, if it continues on, somebody should be making some adjustments and some help should be offered, because the bottom line is we don't want to start slamming stations around because they sound R2-D2. We want to help them correct that problem, and those with some experience don't have R2-D2 too often. And it is no shame at all for a new station to say, hey, I am hearing a lot of R2-D2, lost packets, interrupted transmissions. What am I doing wrong? And I'll tell you, if you were to say that, for example, on the Constellation, there's probably 10 stations that would jump out of their chairs to help you out on that, because all of us have been through it. Sometimes it's fixable, sometimes it's not. But the point of this segment, the 60 seconds of D-Star Basics for tonight, is just to remember, you can't be certain if it's the other station. It could be you. Be polite about it, and just ask them to repeat their traffic. And that's 60 seconds or thereabouts of D-Star Basics. And as always, if you want to add to that discussion or anything else you heard tonight, if there's something that you think is incorrect, if I misspoke or another station got it wrong, feel free to key up and say, hey, Mike, I think you screwed up on that. Here's really what the situation is. I never take offense to it because we want to get out correct, factual information. We're not into guessing. If I'm going to guess, I say, hey, I guess. Of course, I don't know what good that would do for anybody except to just take up some transmission time, but still, we want to get out correct information. And plus, if for some reason there's something new that we missed in 60 seconds of D-Star Basics or any discussion we have tonight, don't sit on it. Key up and say, hey, I just learned or I just read that thus and such is happening. There's a lot going on in Yahoo groups and elsewhere. It's just nearly impossible to keep on top of everything. And if there's something new that we didn't cover in the topic and you think we should, please, key up and let us know about it. We'll be happy about it, and you'll be able to put your D-Star equipment to better use because, well, we would appreciate it. So, here we are. Thursday night D-Star Roundtable. Time for announcements. Stations with announcements. Please key up now.
K7R W6KDM.
I have K7REX and W6KD. First, we say hello to Dan. K7REX, first up for the night. Congratulations. Your prize will be in the mail. Go ahead.
No announcement, Mike. I just thought in connection to your RDD2 comments, you might briefly go through what causes that, so when they do got it, they know what to look for. Back to you, my K7REX.
You know, I think about that, and the times that we've talked about R2D2, it immediately goes way over what I would think would be basics into the weeds, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but I'd be happy to take that just as a topic and to discuss, you know, some of the viewpoints on what exactly causes R2D2 and where you would find it and where you wouldn't, and when you're losing packets, how do you go around and pick them up and put them back to use and not just left, you know, to the night? So thank you for the suggestion. We'll do that. Next up, W6KD. Thanks, Bob, for being with us. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike and Lynette. Well, see, first there's an announcement. I noticed with some amusement that in the trade press that Motorola has filed a fairly major lawsuit against Hytera for broad-scale patent infringement and theft of trade secrets related to their radios. So for the DMR crowd, that ought to be an interesting development. I think the ARRL actually thought it big enough news to put it in their bulletins as well. That's the announcement. To piggyback on the 60 seconds, it's always helpful if you're just listening. You know, if a couple of guys are talking on a reflector and one of them is chopping up real bad, and the other guy says, "Hey, you know, I'm not able to copy because you're breaking up." It's always helpful if a third party can kind of chime in and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm hearing the same thing." You know, be polite about it, obviously, but I don't think anybody doesn't want to know if their end of things is causing problems. And there's still no guarantee that it's their end of things. Could be the internet in between them. You know, could be other things as well. But it's always helpful to have, if somebody else is hearing the same thing, you can confirm it, or sometimes confirm that, hey, you sound fine. You know, if somebody's saying, hey, you really sound bad, I'm not copying a word you say, and you heard everything they said, you know, maybe chime in and make that too. It allows both ends of the other conversation maybe to take a look and see if they can figure out what's happening. Sometimes you can change to a different hotspot or a different repeater, or change to your cellular hotspot, you know, instead of a home Wi-Fi or whatever. But you can't do any of that if you don't know there's a problem. So with that, I'll send it back, W6KD.
An excellent suggestion, and that does help out greatly. All right, so anybody else with announcements? And by the way, I've got a number of emails on the lawsuit. There may be more than one by Motorola, and I noted that Hytera seems to be one of the targets, if not the target. And it would be interesting to note if there are any other defendants that are included in this. And I was trying to find the one of the articles that I was sent. I got quite a few, and I just looked at them too long ago to keep that in mind. But Hytera seems to, you know, I don't know. It you know, it's odd that, well, I'm not going to get into it, but I've always wondered just how it is that DMR in a radio can occur without licensing. I just don't see how that could happen. And apparently, Motorola is going to ask the courts to see if that question is as they think it should be, and that is you can't. So we'll go from there. Anyway, we're still in announcements. These can be hamventions, get-togethers, updates to your repeater or reflector, news and views that are of a more specific location and place. I mean, I hate to get into topics. I like to use this for announcements. Sometimes I talk more about what an announcement is than we actually get in stations keying up with announcements, but whenever I skip it over, I get yelled at. So stations with announcements, please key up.
K6JM.
I have KK6PR and K6JM. KK6PR, welcome. Go ahead.
Hey.
This is Rick, KK6PR in Central Oregon, Crooked River Ranch, and just wanted to announce this is going to be in regards to people that use the ICOM ID 5100 and RT system programming software. From the net last week, I mentioned a problem I was having when the DR screen with the repeater list and not saving the bank correctly when you save the file. Anyway, I contacted RT Systems and they fixed the problem, and as of about noon yesterday, they issued an update. So anybody using an ID 5100 and RT Systems software will want to update their software and get that problem corrected. KK6PR.
Alrighty, thanks for that. And I noted in the current discussions folder on that topic that well, see, now it disappeared. Here we go. On the TH-74 history that N1PEB, who posted the started the post this week, added some follow-up on that and some more explanations. So, real good. Thank you. Next up is K6JM, and we welcome Jim. Go ahead. K6JM, I saw you key up. If you want to get in now, here's the time. If not, let me know, and we'll get you a little bit later. K6JM, go ahead. All right, just stand by. I've been told that there's a lot of nasty noise in my signal. Let me ask KK6PR, how copy?
Have you loud and clear here?
KK6PR.
Alrighty, just listen to myself a bit in the background, and I'm not hearing any distortion on my signal or any noise, but I appreciate knowing about it because you never know when you're transmitting, of course. So we'll proceed as though it's not on this end, and again, K6JM, Jim, I got you keyed up. If you want me to wait for later, fine. If not, you can go now. Give me a chance. Go ahead. All right, no response. Next up is A0RX. Thanks for bringing Rosemary. Go ahead. A007. I just wanted to swear on that comment on so I just said that you're really good. So, got to make sure she's doesn't know anything. She's just this is an intro, and if we get it out, figure out the
It's K7RUX, answer LCGA. If you get a repeater notes on the open spots out there, that may have the system. We're amateur radio, so if we see any problems or anomalies, we should help each other out figure out what's causing that. And that's what amateur radio is all about. In the spirit of amateur radio, AA01X, that's the next control.
Indeed. Thanks for that. K6JM, go ahead.
I should really post this as a question. How can I be taught how to put the HT on the correct memory? So when I try to come back to the net, I'm not sending the constant info request. Sorry about that, Mike. I tried to respond when you first called me. Anyhow, my little announcement was just a reminder that Dayton will be coming up in May. And if you're one of those who has never gone and always talked about it, this might be a good year to move from the decrepit old arena to a whole new area. It'll be a much better layout, I think, and so I'm looking forward to it. You get a chance to meet all the vendors, and in the world of Digital Voice and D-Star, they will be there. So that would be one recommendation on my part. The other is the Motorola thing. I read the press releases from Motorola and Hytera, and I'm not aware, and plus there's just no facts there, so it's really too hard. One interesting one was their claiming ownership of Digital Voice operated relay Vox. And that's, a little hard to believe, but how patent things work. So that'll be interesting to see how the courts play that out. But it is worth reading. They claim 3 people downloaded thousands of documents back in 2008 from the Motorola world, and then quit Motorola and took the documents to Hytera, and it was the theft, very, very explicit theft of those information, IP, and the documents that is being sued. So it'll be fun to see how that comes out. I don't think it affects us right now anyway. That's it for me. Back to you, Mike, K6JM.
Well, thanks for the heads up, Jim. I haven't read the lawsuit, and perhaps we should, because there's a big difference between Motorola saying that, hey, if you're going to be on DMR, which, there's 2 segments to it. I don't want to belabor this, but there's the technology of DMR itself, and then there's the transport protocol used to connect the repeaters. And Motorola claims licensing rights to one and not the other. So if it's against the radio and the technology, that's one thing. If it's claiming that it's corporate theft and that Hytera has, technology that belongs to Motorola, well, that's a different story. Most importantly, though, is that it does not affect those that operate on DMR because it's not against them. And if it turns out that ultimately, the Hytera radio you have is not legal in a loose sense, it's up to the manufacturer to pay the fines and the fees and whatnot to Motorola. There's not going to be a recall, and I don't think they're going to say, well, you can't use that radio on the system. It's just money. But what Jim added to it makes it even more interesting. So I may have to find that complaint, read it, and because that sounds far more interesting than just a claim of, well, we have license to this and you don't. So I appreciate it. All right, stations with announcements, please, Kia. Well, nothing seen or heard, so let's get into the topics, and let's start out with a little bit of follow-up and cleanup from last week and a few new things. I must have received, a dozen emails announcing this D-Star Live. which was a streaming a video event that was on the ICOM website, and it claimed a lot of things, and a lot of people were excited about it, but I noticed that it was not going to discuss, or at least there was no intent to discuss, anything other than D+, ICOM radios, and Internet lab devices. So I am not certain, though, if it is online, that is to be seen again, that is, they recorded it and you can stream it. But if someone did see D-Star Live and would like to give a brief overview of what this particular presentation was about, I think that would be appropriate at this time. So I'll take calls of stations by having you key up. If you'd like to tell us how it went and if there was anything that was earth-shattering we should know about, and if it was as I described it from the flyer, or if they went far beyond just the ICOM and G3 stuff. Stations, please key up. WA6MNV, appreciate it. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I hope you can copy me. I watched the first part of it live, and about a half hour in, had to turn it off, so I had to do some things that prevented me from watching the entire presentation. But the next day I started watching it on the D-Star link on the dstarinfo.com, and then all of a sudden I noticed that it was password protected and that there was an announcement saying that it would come back soon. So I don't know whether or not they went into other things. I do know that I did see part of it live and part of it the next day. And I just also wanted to know, I'm relatively new to D-Star, and I noticed you guys were talking about the R2-D2 issue, and I seem to have a lot of that here with my ID51, possibly because I am not close enough to the repeaters. But thank you for letting me check in, and as I say, I don't exactly know if there was anything new or earth-shattering, especially since I'm new to D-Star, but I do know that it'll eventually come back on the dstarinfo.com website. Whiskey Alpha 6, Mike November Victor.
K6.
K6JM recognized. All right, Bob, thanks for being with us, and got you in the log. We log all new stations, and you've got a great signal. If there was any R2-D2, I didn't discern it. And we will take up R2-D2. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to it tonight, but I will get that set up, and we'll do it soon, because anything of interest that you guys have interest in, we're happy to do. But I've got kind of a jam-packed agenda, so we'll see what we can do about that. But we'll certainly talk about it. And we appreciate. Yeah, I went to the ICOM website, clicked on the link, and that's dead. And did not check out dstarinfo.com. Not that I would kill myself to watch it, given that it probably has little, if anything, to do with anything other than D+. But then I thought, it's D-Star. We can take an overview. So let's see what Jim has for us on that K6JM. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, their intention was, as soon as possible after it went off the air live, was to put up the recordings and make it available to everyone. But I think they got snared in something. The guy who does the dstarinfo.com website Ed Woodrick, WA4YIH, put up the link and then said these links have become password protected at this time. So it sounds like the system that he's using let him put it up and you could get at it for free for a while, and now they want a password. And he says, please stand by for new links. Thanks for your patience. So I think the intent is to unlock those, but right now they're locked. And I don't know the password. I don't think, he didn't say what it was, so I guess we'll have to wait. I watched a little bit of it myself. I was at a dog show and had a little time, and LinkedIn, and it was fine. The first part was all for new people, and that's probably really important because we keep wanting to bring in new people. But they did talk about some other stuff, and you're absolutely right, Mike. They didn't get into the parts of D-Star that many people here like, which is linking to other linking systems like XRF reflectors. So you're absolutely right about that. Back to you. This is K6JM.
All right, Jim, appreciate that. So, I mean, was the intent to sell passwords and charge to see this, or is this just is it password protected because he doesn't want anybody looking at it as they do something to it? I didn't quite understand the implication of it being made available, but only password protected, but then claiming we're going to get rid of the password. So do you know what's afoot? K6JM, go ahead.
The implication was the software or the website that they're using to post these recordings, tricked them up, and they didn't expect it because they had said it would be available to everyone, and then now it's not. And I think so they're probably scrambling, trying to figure out how to get rid of the passwords. But no, they did not want to block people from seeing it. It really was all about trying to sell D-Star, get people interested in D-Star and learn more about it. And so this was an unfortunate side effect of whatever software they chose. Back to you.
Oh, okay, I understand. So they hosted the video that was a result of the stream over on a service that the link would go to, and that service tripped them up, and for whatever reason now they, who knows, exceeded the amount of storage, or they want money to do this sort of thing. The hosting service, not from us. Got it. Well, I knowing Ed, I'm sure that he's going to want to get this up. I mean, it's not like this is a secret or some sort of, black tie, tux event that if you weren't there, you can't find out about it. But all right, very good. Anyone else wish to comment on ICOM's D-Star Live? Let's take you now. Please key up. Was it enjoyable? How about this? You don't have to comment on what you saw, but was it enjoyable? Did you lose your dinner over it? Was this something that, as Jim said, was primarily for new people and was a waste of time for you in your view? Or did you think that this was an opportunity to try to figure out what the heck it is ICOM's trying to do? We'll take one more stab at this, then move on. Stations, please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard, no problem. Now, on the shop box, we have a question from KAJK, and you guys can take a look at this. It's the second one down, and the first station to post a reply looks like it might be K6JM. We appreciate that, Jim, and also I note that you've also posted to the current discussions folder, and very cool. That's a topic we're going to get to here in a bit tonight. But KAJK asks, I am having a great deal of trouble installing the DV dongle software on my Windows Surface, and in parentheses, not RT tablet. The software installs, but the window is really small, and I cannot, I guess he's trying to say, can I make it bigger? Because he can't make it bigger. Anyone else had this issue? And you'll see K6JM's response that probably it's better to install WinDV as opposed to the software that came, and we presume, from Internet Labs with DV dongle, especially since that software is limited to D+ and nothing else, which is really limiting your ability to run around the entirety of D-Star, as Jim points out. And that particular website, is back up, which is great news. You guys might have noticed there was quite a bit of discussion about where to find the downloads for the software. And I'm just going to take a peek to see if the software is still available from the site. I'm hoping that that's still the case, and can be. It looks like it is 1.5.8. Yeah, so very good. I'm glad to see that that's back up. Anyway, in response to KAJK's question, we'd like to take some stations that could help him out directly here and now. So, if you have an answer, especially if you've run into this, again, I'm presuming he's using the Internet Labs software that came with it. It's not running on Windows Surface. Is there a fix? Or is it, to do as K6JM suggests, don't use Internet Labs, that is the software that came with it, or the software with the link in the instructions. Use WinDV. Stations, please key up.
W6KDM.
W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, this is an issue that came up, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, when the Winbook, the little Winbook tablet computers got real popular. They were selling them at retail outlets for, I think it was $69 for the 7-inch and $100 for the 8-inch, and a fair number of people went and got them to use with either DVAPs or with thumb DVs or dongles. And unfortunately, both software options, either the iNet Lab software and WinDV as well, are not resizable on the screen so that you can take advantage, for example, if you were mobile, it would be great to be able to, fill the screen on a tablet and be able to see it so that you're not a hazard to navigation going down the road. But unfortunately, that is the case. I am not aware of any way to make it bigger. Well, no, let me go back half a step. There are some utilities that are intended for helping sight-impaired people that will allow you to, in effect, move like a magnifying glass, a virtual magnifying glass over parts of the screen. And I know a few people back then tried that, and it sort of works, but it's tedious too. So, yeah, it would be nice to be able to, resize the window or get some sort of a meaningfully usable window on a tablet, so that if you had a gooseneck in a car, the one on my two Winbook tablets, I use a mouse, a Bluetooth mouse, and it almost takes bifocals just to see where I'm going with that. It's a problem. Anyway, back to that W6KD.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else have any experience that could have you run into this? Have you found a way to resize the window, the size of the application screen when it's running on Windows Surface? This may apply to more than just the DV dongle software. And but I don't know. Let's find out. Just we'll maybe take one or two more answers. If you can help the station out, please key up.
K6K.
And we say hello to John, K6KD. Go ahead.
Okay, well, good evening, Mike, and the net. Since you mentioned other software in addition to the software that's bundled with the DVAP, for initially for a WinBook, I think it would apply to the Surface as well. That is it's a small screen on that one too, and particularly for driving, it's a problem. I mean, the WinBook in particular, and I'm sure the Surface is the same, has a lot of advantages of a hotspot with a built-in screen, keyboard, and so forth. What Bob W6KD and I did last year, and I was trying to find it in the forum. I can't find the link, but we built a couple utilities. Bob focused on using a wireless Bluetooth mouse that you wouldn't have to look at the screen to be able to do linking and various types of commands, linking and unlinking. And I built a kind of companion to that, which was voice command with a Blue Parrot headset, where you could say link or unlink, and it would cause the software to do what you want. That is WinDV, the software that Jim K6JM recommended. I can't find it in can't find where to download it at the moment. But anyway, back to you, Mike.
Hi, John. Anyone else with help for KHAK, please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard, so we appreciate the Shoutbox posted replies and your answers on the air. And, of course, this becomes a contagious thing. And now that we're answering questions posted in the Shoutbox, we've got our buddy N5VRP who has difficulty. He's in a tin shack cabin in the mountains that you can only get to by burro, and sometimes you can't. I'm just making things up. That's not true. Anyway, the N5VRP has a question that was just posted, and he wants to know, and he's asking this of W6KD, so I don't know why I'm going to call for stations. About the Keep Alive MS timeout settings for D-Star Commander, and there seems to be a problem. He wants to know where he can change it, and he's saying he's having dropouts only on this image, maybe too tight a window. Dropouts in Keep Alive don't make sense to me, but then he's not asking me. He seems to be asking W6KD. So let's just skip all the pomp and circumstance and go right to W6KD. What do you think? Go ahead.
Well, the timeouts are a hard-coded feature, and that's a hard-coded parameter in the G4 underlying G4 KLX gateway software. So, and I think it's pretty standard. It's I believe there's one keep alive per second, and you have to miss. And I'm not dead certain on it, but I think it's 10 of them in a row for the link to drop. So. It sounds to me more like a problematic link than problems with the software. If you're using Maryland or Western D-Star or any other image based off of the G4 KLX IRC DDB gateway, I think it's going to be the same, unless it's been changed very recently, and I don't think that's the case. So I would be looking at the link itself first. But yeah, 1 per second is what I remember. And it's not a parameter. It's not software addressable. You would have to go into the source code, the IRC DDB gateway source code, and change it there.
Well, for those of us who may not understand this Keep Alive EMS Microsoft, I'm assuming timeout setting, can you explain that and how that would show itself in the ordinary course of, well, running a computer? Okay, W6KD, go ahead.
Well, the Keep Alive with regards to D-Star, hold on a second. Anyway, the Keep Alive with respect to a D-Star link, when you send the linking command to a gateway or a reflector somewhere, once the link is established, both sides of the connection send a short packet back and forth to each other every once a second, and that does a couple of things. A, it tells you that the other end is still there and listening and functioning, and it also keeps the hole in the firewall open so that because an SPI firewall, the way it normally works, you initiate the link to the reflector or the gateway, and your outbound traffic opens up a hole in your firewall, and the traffic coming back in from the other end comes back through that hole. And if you don't have traffic passing through that port periodically, then the firewall will close it off, and your link will drop because inbound communications will no longer come through. But that all happens automatically. That's programmed into the software. So when you link up to a reflector or to a repeater somewhere, those Keep Alive packets that's just a normal background function of the gateway software, and I have never seen anywhere where it could be changed other than right in the source code. So I haven't got a fix for that.
All right, Bob, thank you. Anyone else wish to chime in on this? We'll take you now. Please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard. Last week we talked about the Raspberry Pi Zero wireless and that the boards were out. In fact, it was introduced by W6KD as becoming available. There was some brief discussion based upon the literature. No one had one of them in their hot little hands, and I wanted to find out if anybody has, in fact, obtained a Raspberry Pi Zero wireless and put it to some sort of nefarious use, most likely with D-Star. That would be most helpful to us, but we'll take just about any use that's related to amateur radio. So if you have one and you'd like to tell us what you think about it, please key up now. Well, it seems that nobody has one, at least not for those that are listening at this time. Is it that they're not yet available? Is there an ordering problem? It was my understanding that they were going to be available soon. In fact, I recall someone saying that there was at least one vendor that seemed to indicate they might be shipping. MCM would be the most likely place to obtain one right out the gate, but they apparently haven't announced release of it. So does anybody know the status of it before we start, finding our credit cards looking for a place to order? Please key up. W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier about it today, and I looked on the MCM website, and they don't have the Zero wireless listed at all. They have the Raspberry Pi Zero, and said that they'd sold their allotment and didn't know if and when they were ever going to get any more. But I'm not sure that MCM has seen them yet. Micro Center, at least the one here in Denver, north of me here, has them in stock, has had them for about a week and a half, but they're sold in store only. They don't mail order them, and they've got sort of an inverse volume set up so that if you buy one, it's $10, but if you buy more than one, the price goes up. I think up to 5, they're $15 a piece, and if you buy more than 5, they're $20 a piece. So it looks like it's a relatively limited. I don't know if it's limited production, but it's definitely limited availability at this point. But yeah, it's an intriguing possibility for a. It would require probably a USB type device to work with it. I mean, you could probably jury rig together. You could solder in some GPIO pins and make a DV Mega fit on top of it. Why would you when you could? Just made it up as designed to a regular Pi. So anyway, I'm likely going to have one by next week, and maybe I'll be able to report it. My belief is that it probably will work with the DVAP version of D-Star Commander without modification, but nobody's confirmed it. I certainly haven't tested it yet. But judging by how it worked out with the Raspberry Pi Zero, and the original Zero, which does in fact work with that software, I would guess that the DVAP version, which is written for the Pi 3 with the onboard Wi-Fi, is likely to work. But we'll have to wait until somebody actually tries it out before we know for sure. Back to the net, W6Kitty.
What would be the purpose of inverse pricing, where the more you buy, the more you pay per unit? Back to you.
Well, I'm fairly certain that it's a way of keeping other retailers from depleting their stock. It seems to be a fairly popular item to draw customers in. $10 computer. So. Yeah, I think they're trying to keep the stock local as a, not a loss leader, but an attractor for in-store traffic. So that'd be my guess.
Got it. Appreciate it, Bob. Anyone else have any information on the Raspberry Pi Zero wireless? Please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard. Before we move on, and it being almost 8 p.m. here in Pacific, and because we've just recently started this roundtable at 7 p.m. Pacific, I thought it'd be a good time to announce that this is the Thursday night D-Star Roundtable on XRF 002 Alpha and the constellation of X reflectors. We started at 7 p.m. tonight. We've been running almost an hour due to a demand and of a request, really, of many stations to start earlier so that those that are on the East Coast and in other parts of the world can start participating earlier, can stay up a little bit longer and not doze off during the course of the roundtable. And, we still run about the same amount of time, but we found that it's more convenient to start earlier, and frankly, we've had a lot more participation, at least in the early hour, than ordinary, and we've been running gangbusters since we moved to 7 p.m. So for those of you that are with us now, I hope you stay with us. The topics that we're going to cover tonight include calling for information on the ID 4100 to see if anyone has one yet. We're also going to talk about the value of registration for D+ D-Star. There's been quite a bit of discussion both on and off the air about whether D-Star registration within the D+ system is it useless and contrived, or is it does it serve a real purpose? We're also going to talk about an issue that is often discussed, at least in the constellation XRF reflectors, about what seems to be a decreasing number of single use hotspots, an increasing number of multi-mode hotspots or modems. And what does this mean for D-Star, especially in the open source arena? We're also going to be talking about, if we can get to it, some discussion about what to do with D-Star and disaster and emergencies. Also, to talk about how you should be, what you should be worried about. That is, what do you need to be aware of when shopping for new radios, in particular, the ICOM series. And if we have time, we're going to get into CCS7 and the security vulnerability that we touched upon, as well as some other CCS7 issues. And this, well, that would take us probably quite a while, as well as taking your suggestions for topics and questions. So hopefully that will pique your interest, and hope to have you around here as we progress forward with the Thursday night D-Star Roundtable, the one, the only, the original, here on the constellation of X Reflectors. N6HKH is your net control, and our website where you can find the chat room that we call the shout box is at roundtable, that's all one word, .tech, T-E-C-H. Just put that in the address field of your favorite browser, and it takes you right to everything that we may be looking at and things that you can post and think about and, well, play along with, so to speak. So, next up is going to be a call for stations that have an ID 4100. Now, I realize that the release date was, of course, pending FCC certification of compliance, and I'm not sure that that's been obtained. Maybe we can get some help on that. But nevertheless, it was to be released yesterday, actually, if you believed one site, and maybe even the day before on others. So I thought I'd check to see if anyone has one of these radios, or if you have an update. For example, if ICOM has delayed release of this product for 3 months, I'm going to take this off the topics list. So, checking on the ID 4100. Stations who wish to comment, especially if you have one, or if you're upset because you won't get one, we'll take you as well. Please key up now. AI6KJ, welcome. Go ahead. I have AI6KJ on my screen, and your turn. Go ahead. All right, no response, and I might remind you that, look, if you inadvertently keyed up, it happens. We all do it. Sometimes we pick up an HT and hit the PTT, or the dog grabs it, or it gets knocked off the table, the mic hits the floor and bounces. It's no harm, it's no shame. Just let me know that you didn't intend to key up, and I'll take you off the list. On the other hand, I hate to pass by a station that wanted to participate, so I'll just give AI6KJ one more shot, and then we'll call for stations. AI6KJ, go ahead.
N7MW.
All right, nothing heard from AI6KJ, and N7MWL keyed up instead. Welcome. Go ahead. N7MWL. You know, these are two new stations, and we hate to let it slide, and so I'm just checking a little bit here to see what may be the issue. I don't show any, So N7MWL, if you have something for the round table, go ahead. No response. So, still calling for stations that have an update on the ID 4100, as I described. Either you have it in your hands, you ordered it, and you expect to get it, or if there's been some news from ICOM on a release that is not now, which apparently was the case. If it hasn't gotten its certification from the FCC, obviously it's not going to be released. Just a quick update would do. Please key up.
AA0RX.
AA0RX, go ahead.
AA0RX returning. I talked to my buddy Travis, who's an 880H lover, and K0J, who is using one currently. It's a great radio. It's a great rig there, but it's been discontinued. The 4100 is basically nothing more than the next phase of the 880H. It does give you some digital voice access point reference, almost like the 51A plus 2. Other than that, it's just another addition to phase out something old and bring in something new. And that's basically all I know about it. So if anybody else has any comments about it, great, but that's what I know about it, AA0RX.
Yeah, I saw some of the comments about replacing the 880. It really seems to me, without having the radio in hand, I mean, it's a mobile, not an HT, but it seems to be the mobile version of the ID51A plus 2. I don't see a lot of features that set it apart. Yes, it does have a few different features. It's a mobile, not an HT, but I thought perhaps, and I guess it's true to ICOM's form. If there's a problem, a delay, whatever, they don't tell us anything. They just want you to continue to pay a fee, $25 or $50 to your favorite vendor to get in line to buy one, even though you may not know what the price is, and you may not have any idea, because they don't know themselves, when it will be released. Yet people pay that money, but then good for them. All right, if somebody happens to have more news on the 4100, we'll take it from you, but at this point it seems that it's a little bit early to do so. And I want to thank K7REX for circulating the status of the DV4 mobile. It seems that those that have paid to purchase it know this, so it's no news to anyone, but for those that were contemplating buying the DV4 mobile from Wireless Holdings or from the DV4 ... crowd, it's been delayed, and they've got reasons for its delay, but you will not get it soon. You get it later. They don't know when, but they're asking you to have patience, and I guess most notably, if you're not already on the list to purchase and have confirmed or been confirmed that you can buy it, don't bother going to the website and trying to get on the list, because you're not going to get them until the second wave comes through. So it looks like a fun radio, multi-mode, of course, and we'll see how that turns out, given that it's supposed to be capable on D-Star. We shall see. And of course, there's a big hint that, oh, by the way, there's going to be a bunch of software updates that may follow the release of the radio itself, which sounds like another DV4 type. It won't be fully functional, but it will be later on. We'll see. Let's be fair about this. If you have a comment on the DV4 mobile that's contrary to what I had to say, let's take it out before we move on. Please key up. All right, nothing heard. That's fine. one of the discussions I wanted to get into that's been percolating here and there and talked about, especially in light of ICOM's releases of the ID51A Plus 2, which is generally seen as a disappointment. G3, which is not officially released, but you can get it if you have a gateway, as well as this D-Star Live, which, from my understanding, was entirely about D Plus and G3 and the new products and nothing else. Everything else about D-Star was ignored, and despite requests to ICOM to explain what it is that causes them to not want to talk about or make their equipment operational outside of D+, that is, what is their fear, et cetera, the answers have really not been very good. And there's been a lot of debate about the value of registration for D+, D-Star, because at base, that's really much of what the objections to a closed source system, which D+ is. The other sides of D-Star are not. They're open source. Well, that's not entirely true, but at least as far as DXtra and the XLF reflectors and the XLX, etc., those are all open source. But the argument, and you'll hear this throughout the week on various systems, people bitch about it. And, you know, what purpose does it serve? And nobody, and seldom do you hear anybody explain its history, that is, why was a registration required, and why does it continue to be required? Or is it, as many have described it, completely useless and just a contrived system to try to hold people hostage into the D+ realm of reflectors and U.S. Trust and DVAPs and dongles that are only available from one source, Internet Labs, and none other. And I thought this would be an interesting topic because not many people know the history, that is, why was registration required. And this is an opportunity to take up the arguments as to why it is just not working, and in light of the way things operate in pretty much every part of D-Star outside of D+, where no registration is required and seemingly no problems, why is it that ICOM will not venture outside of its box? So I thought and I've had a number of emails come my way requesting this and a number of emails discussing it. So I'm going to take stations who would like to help us out in both discussing the value of D+ and its registration requirements and the purpose of the U.S. Trust, as well as why, that kind of control is useless and they ought to get out of our way. Stations, please key up.
N K6GM.
I have N9KO and K6JM. First, we say hello to N9KO. Thanks for being with us. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mike and the group. N9KO Cal here. On the D-Star Live Part 1 video that I did view last weekend, that topic came up. And what Robin Cutshaw mentioned was that the registration process was implemented as some unnamed countries wanted to had rules against third-party transmission of signals, and so that's what the origin was, thought process was way back when. So I guess that's another reason to watch the D-Star videos. I think they're going to be on YouTube, also, from what I saw in an email. Back to you, N9KO.
All right, Cal, thanks for that. K6JM, go ahead.
Okay, Mike. N6KL or whatever it's called. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. Beat me to it. Yeah, that's one of the sections that I was able to hear while I was at the dog show of the D-Star Live. I think that was actually off. He was off camera, but that was Ray Novak, the head of sales for ICOM North America, Land Mobile, and Amateur Radio. And, you know, I mean, there's some history there, but for whatever reason, Ray has chosen not to share the details and the names of the countries involved. I found a post by the guys who made the DCS reflectors with some similar, this was in 2015, where they said they all felt like they were being forced into require registration if you wanted to use a DCS reflector. And it turns out that I'm not up to date, but Bob W6KD got me the real story, and that they backed off from that, and they still allow sysops to require or not require registration. And in their case, DCS, the registration is to get a 7-digit CCS, or most people call it a DMR ID. And but that is, they do not require it anymore universally like they did for a little while. So I think where we all agree is it's stupid for those countries to require this because bad guys can pretend to be some other ham with a legitimate call sign. It's ineffective. It's just the fact that ICOM claims, and I happen to believe them, that they were forced into requiring registration for their stuff. But it's debatable, and personally, I got registered so I can do REF, and beyond that, I'm not, I don't care. So that's it for my comment. Back to you, Mike, K6JM.
All right, Jim, thank you. N6MUD, go ahead. Well, let me try it again. N6MUD, I got you on my screen. If you didn't mean to key up, let me know. I'll take you off. Otherwise, Craig, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. My radio locked up. I thought that I had lost the connection, so I went. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Mike.
No problem. So we're calling for stations to help us discuss D-Star registration and its value. And, you know, I read where Ray Novak, sales manager for ICOM America, has contended that ICOM has a legal responsibility that has to be observed for countries that do not allow third-party traffic. And so without registration and the U.S. trust and the validation of the call signs, D-Star would not be available in these countries. Now, again, as Jim said, I have not seen anything that describes those countries. At one point, Ray Novak's been in 9JA has claimed that there are, quote, many countries, end quote, that are involved. But on the other hand, I've had an equal number of stations that have commented, and I don't know how knowledgeable they are, but they seem to be, they've invested some time investigating this. The countries or entities that were concerned about third-party traffic backed off of those requirements. And so you get some suspicion as to, is this really is the U.S. root team or the U.S. trust team, sometimes you call it K5TIT team in Texas. Is this an effort to not let other manufacturers of devices other than Internet Labs to let their equipment be used on D+? Is it that kind of thing? Or is there some development in D-Star that we don't know about, where having the call sign registered and in place and controlling who gets in and who doesn't, because they can block you and your device out by your calling your IP, that requires it. Although I cannot find anything on that. There's been a lot of stations that have proffered some discussions on it, and they certainly cite the lack of necessity for the X reflectors. But setting the legal requirement aside, which may have been a good reason initially to require registration, there's an equally strong argument that the time has come and gone. And the system anymore is really, as it's been described, sometimes useless and contrived. And given the fact you got to put a call sign of some sort in my call, and given that as licensed amateurs, we're required to make certain that the other person on the other side of the road that we're talking to is a licensed operator, you just can't say, well, I didn't know. That it kind of eliminates this requirement. But authentication, which really is what this registration comes down to, is a problem, and now that ICOM has furthered it, and they've doubled down on it through their two new radios, one that's out, one that isn't, and through the G3 process, and now requiring that you register, if you're going to use a terminal or access modes on your radios, to register those separately on a G3 system. That promotes control and completely undermines experimentation. And it's almost an effort to kick any other mode of D-Star beyond D+ to the side of the bus. Now, fortunately for us, that hasn't occurred and likely never will. But these are the issues that I was hoping that we could have an interesting discussion on, so that when you think about it, you want to be on D-Star and the DXtra realm, you don't need to register. Of course, why not register? But then again, what's the purpose of it? And why are all these stations going out of their way to get around it? So, with that prelude, stations, please key up.
K6 W6KD.
I have K6KD and W6KD. First to John, K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, Mike. Well, I've got some circumstantial evidence that might shed some light on the whole thing. First of all, to discuss what happened in Europe. Maybe there's some things different there, but what's in common is probably human nature and the desire to maintain control. A little bit of background for others. I maintain an X reflector-related forum and a directory, and in that, because of that role, I get involved in aware of a number of discussions and things going on. And prior to, some time ago, when the DCS commissars were announcing their control mechanisms, they let it slip. They said, well, government, there's some ambiguous comment about government might require it, but they also wanted to be able to exert control if any stations were misbehaving. Now, whether that was a causal relationship, but sometime after that, some of the people in Europe got in touch with me, and initially to get a copy of the X reflector software, but the the point was there were a lot of people in Europe that were extremely dissatisfied with the DCS regime, the control, the authoritarianism, the arbitrariness, and as a matter of fact, that's what led to the development of the XLX reflectors. The guys decided, and that was originally done as a replacement of DCS. In fact, now the DCS is, the reflectors are kind of capitulated. The protocols is alive and well, but the XLX reflectors are taken over. The other point, let me reset real quick. So the point being that in the view of a lot of people in Europe, it was an excuse to maintain control. And now that the XLX reflectors are flourishing all over Europe without having any control, it kind of vindicates that. Unless all these government regulators sort of change their mind, which would be kind of coincidental. The other point is that when Robbins distributes his software with the DVAP, he deliberately made a change in his software to prevent people from using his software and using X reflectors. There was a beta version where people could still do it, but it was an overt change to stifle competition, and so that motivates a lot of us to champion the X reflectors and XLX reflectors, and the open source has led to these reflectors being far superior in terms of features and technically to the D+ reflectors. They can't link. If you look at the dashboards, half the time the information is incorrect. It's just the result of a stagnant closed source system. But as long as it's generating money for internet labs, I guess that's what it's useful for. Anyway, back to you, Mike.
Thank you, John. Some great points. W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a lot I could say on this issue. I'm not going to say all of it here right now. But first of all, what you have here is classic, the classic trouble you run into when you have one or two for-profit corporations negotiating, at least, ostensibly, or at least as they tell us, negotiating with foreign countries where they have no standing to be making rules and decide, it's not ICOM's place, nor is iNet Labs' place to be negotiating with foreign governments on, what's required or not required in order to make ham radio modes acceptable to them. I think last time I looked, we had the IATU and the ARRL and the FCC to handle that stuff. So, first of all, if in fact it happens the way Ray Novak says, ICOM was out of place doing it. They were, it was it's frankly not their place, and certainly we are not bound to abide by whatever agreements they may or may not have come up with in the reset and change hands. I am scratching my head somewhat in that D+ was not developed by ICOM. It was developed by third parties, and so for ICOM to claim that they were in on the ground floor of negotiating with countries to make it acceptable kind of has my head spinning around here because I'm not sure ICOM was even in the business, even involved at the point that it was being developed. So I don't know. Let me just say that if you have two for-profit entities claiming to be doing it for our own good and not being forthcoming with the details on why, I'm skeptical, and rightfully so, I think. So, but that said, if they were in fact negotiating on our behalf, they did it poorly. Anybody worried about third-party traffic on ham radio using D-Star, even connected over the internet, really any competent negotiator should be able to have gone to them and said, hey, look, in order for somebody to talk, each end of the communication has to have a ham radio unique ambi-equipped device to decode the signal. You know, it's not like you can tunnel through the internet and talk to somebody else over the phone. No, they can do that with Skype or with, TeamSpeak or C3 or GameVox or any number of other VoIP services. You know, the reality is, in 2017, anybody with an internet connection can do VoIP anywhere in the world, and so for them, I can't believe that any foreign communications regulatory agency would care much anymore. Maybe 20 years ago, possibly, but they used to be very protective of their telecoms, and let me change hands again. So anyway, so if they did negotiate on our behalf, they did it poorly, and certainly, it seems a bit fishy to look at how the whole thing is set up. And at one point, the software that A4RC distributed with the dongles and the DVAPs would work with other reflectors than his, and then it was modified so that it won't. And anyway, so the bottom short line is I ain't buying it. I don't believe for a second that the trust server, especially the reincarnation, the doubling down of stupid, if you will, and recreating the whole trust system in a new and bigger and badder format with G3, has anything to do with international regulation. I'm very skeptical. I'm not buying it. It's going to take a lot more than what I've heard to convince me that that's really what's driving it, at least now. The good news is on DCS and on the X-reflector systems here, it is not and never has been required. You don't have to register. And gee, what I haven't heard one story of one foreign communications regulations agency pitching a complaint about their hams being able to conduct third-party traffic over D-Star in a way they wouldn't want to. I mean, when you think about it, third-party traffic can be done over packet radio. There are numerous forwarding systems that can forward messages out of a text packet radio system right out onto the internet. There are also thousands of hams worldwide that can put their their kid on their lap and have them talk to grandpa in Hungary or whatever with an HF radio. Third-party traffic, if there's any restrictions on it, it's up to the control operator to adhere to them. And to expect that D-Star is somehow singularly unique in having to have some sort of technical countermeasure to keep it from happening is baloney. I don't think it's really the case. But in any event, it shouldn't be the case. And the existence of the X-reflectors and the absence of any registration mechanism in them, and the fact that there hasn't been any problem in all these years sort of tells you the story, I think. So, let me change hands one more time. Ultimately, it's sort of like copy protection on programs, that are sold. Nobody expects people to just put it out there and let people steal it, but if you make it too draconian, it actually impacts your paying customers more than it impacts the people you're trying to keep from stealing the stuff. This is sort of the same thing. Is that the registration system is just a speed bump that people have to get over. It causes all kinds of people trouble. New hams trying to get into D-Star are constantly running into issues with the poorly designed registration system that depends on a distributed system of registration gateways, many of which take a registration and then go offline, leaving you orphaned and having to hunt down somebody at the K5TIT team to deal with your record at the at their level. It's bad news from front to back. It's unnecessary. It's practice bleeding. And by the way, this is what happens when you have a couple of commercial entities that go off and do things on their own without asking anybody what we would like, what we think should happen. They're not they don't make deals for the FCC. They don't speak for the U.S. ham community in any respect, really. So, I'm not a fan of the system. I'm not a fan of how they did it. I'm not a fan of how they're doing it now. And I'll leave it there. W6TV.
K6J.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciated that. K6JM. Go ahead.
Well, I think I agree with most of this. The other thing I agree is I don't like registration. I am the admin for the local club's D-Star Gateway, and I deal with registration daily. And it has the one advantage is true newbies. I intercept them early on in the process, and so I can give them some help. And so that's the one good thing. But I agree. I think the part that John and Bob were both saying is the registration is really stupid if the reason for it is that some jurisdictions in the world think it's going to somehow keep bad guys from transmitting over RF in their jurisdiction. No, I mean, it just won't. So that's why the whole thing is stupid. Totally agree with all the comments. On the other hand, though, I do believe that there are some jurisdictions where the governmental entities, and we're talking about, technical bureaucrats, they're capable of being stupid and capable of thinking that they can require this. And I do believe, ICOM, that they did run into a situation where at least one country that has not been named said that they were going to disallow internet-connected D-Star repeater gateways in their country. And ICOM felt like it would be better for the rollout and momentum of D-Star to address that, and they did so. They didn't negotiate, or they were not doing this on behalf of anybody. They were trying to keep their sales up. They're trying to make money. Let me break here. So, we have a difference of opinion, and none of us here in the different points of view have have the real facts, and we're not going to get them. So in one sense, when you can't control something, you move on. That's what I'm doing anyway. A couple other comments, though, Mike. I think the 51A plus 2, the new modes, the terminal and access point, and they'll be in the 4100. I think it's a really bad idea. And I think they thought they were going to say, this is going to make it exclusive. You hear about DMR and this and that, but by golly, you're going to want to get a D-Star radio instead because of these neat new features. And I think it's ridiculous. I really don't care for call sign routing on a day-to-day basis. StarNet Digital uses it kind of in the background, but it's really nicely done. But just raw call sign routing of the kind they want you to do for these new features in the 51A plus 2, if people don't like it. They don't like hitting the call sign capture button in order to reply. And I think this is going to backfire. And as people discover that the plus 2 costs more, but then they got to use call sign routing, I don't think it's going to sell because of that. Let me break one more. So that's about it. The other thing is D Plus is the same thing. By having the D Plus, the Internet Lab software only do D Plus reflector RF linking, they're really restricting their usage. Now, people can still go out and buy a DV dongle, DV3K, or DVAP from Internet Labs and then never load their software, but instead load G4KLX or Freestar. And they can actually get some value out of those products. But I think it actually hurts their sales if they want to expect people to use to use their software with that hardware. And so I think I think some of these are just bad business decisions, but not trying to be. They're not trying to control. They actually think they're doing something smart, and I think they're doing something dumb. That's it for me. Back to you, Mike. This is K6JM.
K6KD.
Great points. K6KD. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll be pretty brief this time. I think aside from all the theoretical, I think the practical thing for somebody looking to purchase a radio is if ICOM keeps the original or the anniversary edition ID51, and then also sell the 51 plus 2 for $200 more. Keep in mind that you'd be spending $200 more for features that are only going to be useful in an increasingly shrinking part of D-Star. If, on the other hand, they do away with the original 51, and the only alternative is to spend the extra money for the 51 plus 2, then you're in the neighborhood of the Kenwood, which has a keypad, which, by the way, is a lot more useful, in my opinion, than the $200 features of the call sign routing-based features of the ICOM. The only other point, real quick, is in terms of countries that that might have restrictions. If you go to the X-Reflector directory and you go to XRF 250, either the dashboard or the organization, it's the Russian National Reflector System, you'll see that open source is flourishing very, very well in Russia. In fact, there was a version, they created a specific version of the reflector software in Russia and distributed it. So if the Russians can embrace open source, I think the rest of us can too. Back to you, Mike.
All righty. Stations, please key up. Well, didn't get a key at that time. Let's see if we can push this a bit further. Let's assume that there was a real purpose and a good reason for the restrictions of having a central call sign gateway, that is, registration was something that was important, and the way it was set up 20 years ago served a purpose. Why is it that still today, 20 years later, ICOM won't tell us specifically why it is still needed? The responses and the writings of Ray Novak, for example, are quite vague and ambiguous. We don't know the countries that were involved. We don't know if that's still the case today, or if it was only when D-Star was in its current iteration that, well, as JARL, which is the license holder, they created D-Star. If what was needed then still exists today, are they not telling us factually the truth in order to perpetuate this and seemingly now useless registration system? And then that begs the question, what is the real purpose of G3? Now, we've had some stations that have told us on the roundtable that there are some basic improvements in G3. Some things do better, some things that weren't necessary are gone. But the bottom line is that G3, installed out of the box, does not support anything other than D+. It does not support D Extra. It does not support IRC-DDB as far as being the add-on to go to the non-D+ D-Star systems. And then, what is the purpose of terminal and access point features in these two new radios that only use, as Jim has pointed out, call sign routing and require G3? that is a purposeful method, it seems, to lock out and not support XRF, DCS, and just to keep everybody within the fold of D+ and ICOM. So it seems. And there is no explanation that has been put forward, to my knowledge, by ICOM explaining this. Because when you think about it, there really isn't any good reason for G3, and certainly G3 in not allowing natively the ability to use XRF, which reflectors are going up like crazy, and DCS linking, and you can't go there with G3 without going through a I timed out because I got carried away. Let me not get quite so carried away. In order to get G3 on our gateway, on the X reflectors and the like, you have to do a customization software install. There are stations that do offer that allows RF switching between the G3 and the G4KLX IRC-DDB gateway. That should be completely unnecessary, but it's there. But we don't know why. And, I have to give credit to ICOM and Robin for, their initial work in making D-Star available worldwide, and for the REF reflector system. But how long are we going to continue to give them credit for something that now works against us as amateurs? We have to put our call sign in the devices at each end. And there has to be a device at each end. And as Boz W6KD pointed out, current VoIP telecommunications don't require that. And yet countries don't seem to have a problem with it. They don't require validation or registration. The amateurs seem to do a pretty good job. We seem to do a pretty good job with something false ideas. That's why it's pretty long. It's pretty obvious. And that's like amateur get on D-Star. Nothing much to check out call signs. Besides the station operator responsibilities. As we have been so quite lately, warning our service about the limitations in the ID-41A+2. And what we expect to be limitations in the 4100, ID-4100. And there are very limited usings, but it is a call sign and requires G3. And all these stations gateways and the repeaters are upgraded to G3 without really knowing what its purpose is. And when you think about it, its purpose is to be able to use these unusual and quite frankly, unwanted features, at least in this country and North America, of terminal access point. But it also perpetuates the lockout by ICOM of X reflectors and the IRC-DDB world. So, what do you think? We're happy to entertain defenders of G3. As I said at the beginning of the roundtable, we could have it wrong and we could be missing information. Now, I blame ICOM directly for not providing the information that we so desire. I've seen email after email to Ray Novak and ICOM begging to understand what's going on here. And you get hokey-doked, or you get vague and ambiguous answers, or you get answers that might have been appropriate perhaps 20 years ago. So it's troubling. And, there's a lot going on in the X reflectors. ICOM has no interest in them. stations. Please key up.
W6KDM.
W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll key on something that GMK6JM said a little while ago that, they've made some bad decisions and maybe it's not nefarious. Even if you give them the benefit of the doubt, it looks like, development of somebody's good idea without asking the consumers what they think. Never ever have I seen ICOM, and to be fair, nor Kenwood or Yaesu go out and ask folks what they want to see in a radio and what features and what capabilities it might have. You think about it. I mean, the ID51 Plus 2, it tethers to your Android phone with a cable. Who runs around with a HT with a wire sticking out, with a wire connected from the bottom, running over to your cell phone? I got these, the visions of the guys running around the Hamfest with a beanie cap and a antenna clipped to the bill of their hat with a headset and a push-to-talk switch clipped to the front of their shirt and wires running all over the place. And, it's a Rube Goldberg setup. And, in fact, I can kind of accept that it's just bad. It's just ineptitude. Because when you look at the design, you scratch your head and go, who would really use a radio like this? In this day and age of wireless, why would you use a cable to connect the two and not a Bluetooth connection just to start with? Well, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are everywhere, and the VLSI chips to make all that happen are cheap and available anywhere in the world. It's I guess kind of sad or whatever. But yeah, we do. I can't tell, by the way, whether or not ICOM has discontinued the ID51 Plus in lieu of the Plus 2. Let me change that. They are plentifully available right now at HRO and Gigaparts and the likes. So, it looks like they're still producing them. I haven't seen any. Well, ICOM rarely notifies the community when they stop producing something. They hope to, sell them out, quietly discontinue them and hope the rest of them sell off the shelves or whatever. That's certainly what happened with the ID1 and the IC92AD and some others. But in any event, if they sell both radios, then people who want the terminal and access point modes with the cable and all the goofy stuff that goes with it are free to go buy that stuff and knock yourselves out, have fun. Okay, to each their own. And then, it's up to forums like this one to say, hey, look, if you're a new guy in ham radio, don't go buy a Plus 2. It's not, you're going to pay $200 extra for it, and what you're going to get for that extra $200 isn't worth $2, in an experienced operator's opinion, and as long as we get the word out, it would be a shame to see people paying $500 for a radio with $200 of that being capability that that's about as useful as snowplow on a pickup truck in Phoenix. So anyway, that's that. So we probably need to keep beating the drum to some degree that this whole G3 access point call sign routing thing is danger Will Robinson. Just raise the flag and say, hey, look before you leap. Understand what it is you're getting into before you plunk down your money, because in the opinion of many experienced guys, it's kind of wasting your money. You could buy an ID51 and build yourself a nice RF hotspot with a Raspberry Pi and a DV Mega, and be just about at the same, just be just about the same amount out of pocket, but have much better capability to operate doing something like that. So, as long as we get the message out, keep getting the message out, so that the new folks get the word. ICOM, they're just living in their bubble, and that's okay, I guess. Back to the net, W680.
AA0RX.
Appreciated, Bob. AA0RX. Go ahead.
AA0RX returning. Yeah, not to mention that if you're going to actually use the +2, the way I read it, you have to have actually the HT hooked to your internet connection as an access point, and so you actually technically need to buy 2 radios. That's $1,000 just to use another HT somewhere else in the shack and get into your access point. So it's a very expensive access point. Just wanted to add that. And, if somebody breaks into my shack, this is to add on the registration, if somebody breaks into my shack, they look up on the wall, they see my call sign, they get on there, and they use my HF radio. Most of my HF buddies are going to say, hey, that's not Gary. They know my voice. But for those stations that don't know me, they can get away for a short period of time to do that. But, generally in ham radio, it's pretty specific to the user, and people will find you, and they'll find you out in these endeavors. And that's kind of rambling, I know, but anyway, I had to register once, and that's not a big deal. For other digital voice modes, such as DMR, I've had to register about 6 or 7 times in different areas, on different dashboards with different networks. Highly unuser friendly. So anyway, I know this is D-Star here, but like I said, it's I've been highly annoyed every time I do something different, either it be DMR Mark or Brandmeister or any of the other junk. I have to actually re-register 100 times to get in the system. That's very uncool in my opinion. Anyway, AA0RX.
Alrighty. Stations, please key up. N6MUD. Go ahead.
Hey, great discussion, guys, this evening on our registration process. I just want to chime in. I don't really necessarily do much these days on D+. Once in a while, I key up on a D+ repeater, and everything I do is from my Pi. And I really don't see any use for there's some people over there, but for the most part, my time is spent on Extraflex and what have you. But I do have a couple observations. First of all, younger homes, and everyone's used to signing up these days for everything, on the internet and social media. Everyone's used to having accounts, they're used to having user IDs and passwords, and so signing up for an account per se to use D-Star for the younger generation is really not that cumbersome. If the process for the registration was seamless, there's a lot to be desired about the registration process. You got to make sure you have a certain amount of spaces and all types of craziness like that, and suffixes and what have you. And with this day and age in technology, we need to do a better job at that if they want to actually, make the younger generation accept the fact that, okay, so I have to sign up. All right, let's make this easy for me. If it's complicated and convoluted and hard, or take some time to figure out, they're not going to do it. And they'll maybe drop D-Star or even drop amateur radio. So I definitely think it is a burden to do this registration process for the main fact that it's cumbersome and convoluted. If it was simple and easy, I think people wouldn't really necessarily worry about it, at least for the younger generation, the millennials or whatever. So anyway, back to you, Mike, in 6 meeting.
All right, Greg, I understand. Well, you know, there is a view that the U.S. Trust are good guys, and that Robin, as you've heard, should be due credit for his work in furthering D-Star. But today, it calls into question, are there tactics, and by that I mean G3 and these two new radios, are they really exclusionary? And the registration process is all part of that, because it's intended to not let you go anywhere other than D+. All of the innovation, the active experimentation, the new things that we get in D-Star are not in D+. You're going to find them in the open source D-Star protocols, such as the X reflectors, D-Extra, DCS, and the like. You don't see people slaving away trying to make D+ better. You see people working on devices and improvements to the protocols in the X reflectors. I mean, take a look at XLX and look where the DCS reflectors, what they did. They bailed in favor of XLX running the show. So that is the other side, which just can't account for, and again, it's because ICOM doesn't give us anything to bite our teeth into. And so these radios that they're producing, and especially just call sign routing as the basis of these two features, I don't get it. And G3, again, I understand there's some improvements. In fact, in the Shoutbox, K6JM has pointed out some, and we've talked about some of the good things about it, although people still, at least as far as the Yahoo groups are concerned, pulling their hair out over it. It seems to be, you know, in essence, a way to keep people in D+ and exclude them. You know, at least not, well, to exclude them from D-Extra, XRF, and the like. It's you can get there, but it's not an easy task. And hotspots and these new devices, especially as they mature and work well, the D+ doesn't want them, doesn't like them, and there have been an increasing number of incidents where they've been locked out of D+. And why is that? What are they doing wrong? I don't know. If there's an errant device, that's one thing, but it's no different than an errant device here on D-Extra. So, are there further comments now that we've talked about this a bit more? I think it's a very interesting subject. I hope that you guys find some interest to it and some thought. You know, if you're here with us on the X reflectors, you're here in part because we're here, but also you found value in the X reflectors. There's a purpose to hotspots and access points. There's a reason why you're spending money not on radios, but on now multi-mode devices. So I'm concerned that ICOM's going to shoot themselves in the foot. Thank God for Kenwood and the D74. ICOM no longer has a lock on D-Star. And that's something that is very important to us, and hopefully will shake them up. All right, let's see if there's any further comments. And look, I'm not going to close this off, but feel free. If you don't agree with anything you've heard, this is a discussion group. We're happy to take your opinion. Nobody's going to jump down your throat. And if they try to, just let me know, and I'll deal with it. No, but, you know, look, don't be shy. Stations, please key up.
A0R.
AA0RX, go ahead.
AA0RX was saying what would be nice is if the folks that were inventing all these new infrastructures in terms of the radio to actually be part of a roundtable like this, or listen to amateur radio operators who are using D-Star and reflectors, and actually participating in this net to give their point. It would be nice to get the trust server Robin Cutshaw in here. I have no idea why he's silent. He has to know this is going on. He has to be listening someplace, some repeater that's carrying this on there, and he's listening from afar, and that's totally, in my opinion, weird. And anybody else is inventing these infrastructures. It's, like I said, it would be nice to have actually them say, hey, this is why we have registration, and this is why it's a good reason. The people that want that should get in here and say why. And the fact that they're absent from here makes, I don't know what to think. I mean, Mark Fry, your work shall set you free, I guess.
Well, you're not going to see Robin over here on the X reflectors, and certainly not, anybody from ICOM. But they don't even give the time of day. And look, there's no question that I'm sure they listen at some point, whether by recording or live, but still, we've invited both Ray and Robin numerous times. They refuse. That is, invite them as speakers, and they just won't do it. Instead, of course, they want to do this streaming where they can control the content and keep everybody in the ICOM wagon and not, allow for there's something else that may be different, better, but it's all still D-Star. They just don't want to allow for that. And if an explanation is forthcoming, that is specifics. I've got all the kinds of explanations. I printed out many, but no specifics. And it doesn't differentiate between the purpose of it 20 years ago and the purpose of it today. So the story of 20 years ago is not relevant. We know the reason why registration was something that seemed to be important at the time. Maybe so. I'm not even going to, judge that. Instead, it's today that we're concerned with. All right, anybody with final thoughts? We'll take you now, otherwise we're going to move on. Please key up.
K7REX.
K7REX, go ahead.
The old timers has been doing this D-Star stuff since the days of dirt. Can you tell me when ICOM D-Star repeaters started including the registration on their? Did they come out that way? Because that's when that all began. I don't know if they started or Robin started, or all these different things, but it's being done through the individual servers. So when did ICOM include that?
All right, fair question. D-Star historians, D-Star came out in steps. There was a radio, much like some of the new digital modes. There was a radio, simplex, and then it went to repeaters. Well, anyway, let's see if we can get that answered for you. Stations, please key up.
W6K6JM.
I have W6KD and K6JM. First to W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, the reality is that you don't have to register to use an ICOM repeater. It's not an ICOM thing. It was actually part of D+, and still is, actually. Although it may be that G3, the new protocol, In fact, I think it probably is the case that G3 now requires the access. But up until G3 showed up on the scene, you could always transmit through an ICOM repeater without any kind of registration. But if you wanted to go through a reflector, you had to be registered in the K5TIT trust server in order for your signal to be repeated out through the, so you could talk to the reflector, but if you wanted it to send your signal out to the other connected gateways, you had to have a registration. So, many people have probably heard, one half of a conversation where a guy that's registered is talking to a new guy or whatever that's on a repeater that doesn't have a registration or doesn't have his radio programmed properly maybe, and he's not getting back out through the gateway. I think ICOM's entering into the whole registration thing is recent as G3 here. The K5TIT server was part and parcel with the implementation of D+, which is of course the REF reflector. So that's my understanding of it. Jim's been around a long time. Maybe he's got more to add. W6KD.
K6JM. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I often tell people, I got my first D-Star radio in 2007, but I didn't get serious until 2010, so I really wasn't around for those early days to the G1, and then it was really G2 came out, and I'm really not sure the timing of D+. I think of D+ as the killer app that launched, kind of like the killer app for PCs was a spreadsheet, and I think of D+ as the killer app that caused D-Star to really take off. Would not have without something like it. And so it was clearly out there, people using D+ REF reflectors actively and growing when these apparent legal issues from certain countries came up. So that's the timing. Whether that was 2008, I couldn't tell you. I just, it's the sort of thing that would be fun to research. And you could, partly the research would just be go ask the people who were there and living it. But then I don't know the exact answer. But I think when ICOM, and this is again, I'm probably out of school quoting or referring to a conversation I heard, but my understanding was that when this one particular country was planning to shut off ICOM D-Star repeaters that had internet connections so that the REF users could come in from anywhere and go out over RF in their country, that ICOM suggested that Robin work with U.S. Trust and the registration solution came up as a way to solve the problem. And we all agree now that it's stupid. But I think at the same time, then registration was required to do call sign routing. In other words, any kind of network D-Star registration from ICOM or D+ required that. That's my understanding. That's all I got. Back to you, K6JM.
3, 7.
All right, thank you, guys. I just took a look at the Nifty Easy Guide to D-Star Operation, which, despite being probably the best entry and advanced manuals concerning the use of D-Star, it doesn't tell us when the U.S. Trust year-wise came into being, when D+ specifically was implemented, when registration to get out of the gateway into the reflectors was required, and whether registration was required in fact to talk through a repeater without a gateway, which of course the gateway is the D plus and the reflector system. I just couldn't find a date. I thought I'd throw that out. I was trying to find it, so it's history that will have to be solved in some other manner. K7REX, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Bob and Jim and Mike, all three of you. Well, here's the thing I'm looking at. These servers all have this database, and these databases now all interact with the trust system. They update every so often, over so many hours and all that stuff. And that we did in G2 because I was a part of G2, and we still are, a lot of us, on the whole system here. That all was part of that. I have no clue what happened in G1. But what I'm curious is did that patch for a D+, did that include that database that they're now using with obviously patches, well, the upgrade. When they started installing D+ on the servers, did that also put the software on there for registration on those servers, the interchanges with the trust system? Or did ICOM put out a upgrade of some kind that made their servers comply to that? I mean, there has to be a relationship there someplace, and ICOM was involved somehow, or maybe not.
Well, I don't know that we can get that answer tonight, and I'm sure there's a history or somewhere online that gets into it. Certainly D+ is a protocol, and you know, some of the stuff now that so much time has gone by is a bit foggy, and even in the basic and advanced D-Star classes, other than a cursory review of how it is the registration is required. Of course, you know, D-Star was unique as a digital mode, and DMR IDs and other kinds of requirements of identifying a station when operating digital was unheard of. So, you know, it was not even really important, and then as time has gone by, we've forgotten it, but it's something that, you know, somebody will be able to come up with an answer. And now that we've treaded water just a bit, let me just see if someone can help on this. Otherwise, we'll see if we can't get this at least posted up perhaps between now and next Thursday, since that seems to be something that eludes us, and that the books aren't, I've got here, don't give us dates. Stations, please key up. All right, nothing there. So comments on this topic, again, we'll be happy to move on, or we can stay here for a bit. But in order to stay here, we have to have stations keying up. So please key up now.
K7R.
K7REX, go ahead.
Well, Mike, I just didn't want you to go anywhere, so I keyed up.
Well, I got to tell you, it's tough for me to go anywhere, quite frankly. It's even difficult at times, even if I think somebody's going to be long-winded, to be gone very long. But I appreciate it. So, anyone else have any thoughts on this topic? Let's hear from you, or we're going to jump into another one. Please key up. All right, no response, nothing heard. So that was a great discussion. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. And it's one of those that takes some time and some thought, and takes some, you know, knowledge of those that have been around for a while. So appreciate the stations that helped us discuss this. And you know, one of the things that was alluded to earlier was, and you know, it's actually a common topic of discussion, frankly, during the week on the Constellation and on other reflector systems, is you know, the hobby is moving really fast at its D-Star. And it seems that multi-mode is becoming more popular, and increasingly so, every day. And is that because it's the latest and greatest, or is there another reason for that? And as K6JM posited to me a few days ago, it's his sense that the single-mode devices are starting. I mean, we're not seeing anything new. We're seeing new Raspberry Pis. But the D-Star-only hotspots as a manufactured device, they're not proliferating. You're seeing multi-mode devices coming down the pike, and they're still somewhat in their infancy, but they're far beyond being brand new. And so that becomes the issue. That is the multi-mode device is becoming popular to the extent that we must confront multi-mode on D-Star in a manner that is not, trivial as some other nets make it, where they just, put a bunch of plugs together and pipe audio that sounds terrible and then take a bunch of check-ins. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. But in the tradition of MMDVM and the multi-mode repeaters, is D-Star in, by itself losing an audience by not embracing these multi-mode devices and the audio that can be, and the audience that would be on other modes, but being part of D-Star. Does it widen the audience, or does it make people sick to their stomach? And where do we go from here, especially in light of our continuing need to attract new users to both amateur radio as well as D-Star? So that's the topic. I hope I framed it correctly. Stations, please key up.
K6JM.
I have K7REX and K6JM, and I want to thank K6JM for bringing this topic to my attention. And by the way, some of his thoughts, which you can tell he's given quite a bit of thought to this, can be found in the current discussions folder under where did you put it here? MMDVM repeaters. There's a post 2 hours ago by him, and there's a question, and it goes on and on. And it's going to be a really interesting thread in the current discussions folder, and the first one that you see. Let me go back and get the title. MMDVM repeater, K6PUW multi-mode repeater. It's in there. And I appreciate the stations that have taken the time to write, and to write well, and to post. So, let's pick up the stations that have keyed up. K7REX, go ahead.
Okay, K7REX. Well, here's my take on this thing as a newcomer. Look at the price of radios. Look at your ID51 plus 2s now. Look at all these radios. And you're a ham out there just getting started. Maybe you're a teenager, maybe you're not. But, your money is stretched so thin. You can buy an FM radio for $30-some-odd. And yay, that's fun, just be on the air. But if I wanted digital, I got $4,000 serious bucks. Well, here comes these devices like the DV4 Mini AMI, where you can only, of course you got the DV dongle too, the same idea. Where you, with the DV dongle without the add-on software, is just going to work on D-Star. And that's good. If you're still going to have some good room for just that in one mode. But for $230 or whatever, you can get a DV4 Mini AMI and have it on your computer, all these different modes, and decide what you want to use, and get to play it and understand them all. They're not the only ones that have that ability. So there's some enticement there. I would think it would bring more people to this part of the hobby by being cheap enough to be within grasp. before they decide, gee, what radio do I fork all my route out for, this kind of stuff. That's my 2 cents. Back to you there, Mike.
Thank you. K6JM, go ahead.
Okay, Mike, before I say anything, I want to make sure you're copying me okay?
I am. Go ahead.
Okay, I've moved to another area. I wanted to make sure my hotspot was working. Well, my preference for, I think, rational reasons and based on experience is I prefer D-Star. I didn't care for DMR much until the Brandmeister network came out, and that now gives people about as much control as we get. Bob or some others may disagree because of the incredible flexibility of now of XRF reflectors, but in general, DMR users connected to a Brandmeister master have about a lot of control now over where they're routed to and who they're talking to. Add to that what Dan just said about the incredible low price, and that's just the simple fact that DMR is an international standard put out by ETSI, so people, companies make DMR radios that are sold to military, commercial, land mobile, and by the way, a few amateurs, and so they're commodity priced now. We don't have any radios like that can compete in price in the D-Star world yet. I think we will, but not yet. Let me take a break. So hams will migrate to some of the other modes, and if you want to build a hotspot or build your own DVAP, but you want to use it for DMR initially with an inexpensive radio, you can do that now with multi-mode software available. And you don't have to use multiple modes. You can just use it for DMR with an inexpensive DMR radio. But maybe later down the line, you'll buy a 31A or a used 51 or something, and because you'll start hearing about D-Star. And your hotspot or DVAP multi-mode will be ready to go with this new, for you, mode called D-Star. And then maybe somebody gives you that's not going to happen, but maybe you'll get a FT2D, a System Fusion Yaesu digital voice radio. And so what I like about the multi-mode is it gives you all kinds of flexibility. You don't have to start out with 3 or 4 radios, but you will be able to play around with different visual voice systems and keep the same hardware. That's about it. Back to you, Mike. This is K6JM.
Jim, appreciate you hanging in there. I know it's dinner time. Stations, please key up.
AA0R.
AA0RX, go ahead.
AA0R is returning, the K6GM station there. I had a friend of mine that I set up, he wanted to get on D-Star, so I set him up with a D-Star Commander image and a Raspberry Pi DV Mega board, and he has since bought a DV Mega dual band board with the Raspberry Pi, and he's trying to use the Western D-Star image, which I know nothing about. It's that MMDVM INI file and all that, and he has been pulling his hair out every day, week after week, bothering me about it. He can't get on to either D-Star or DMR with that image from Western D-Star. So anyway, what kind of advice do you have for me to give him to get his problem fixed? I just told him to sit with BB6KD's image, and and have a good time with D-Star, which is already working in his shack, but he wants to get on this multi-mode digital voice board, DV Mega board.
All right, your signal on my end was a bit rough, but we got most of it, and I think you're done. Let me just check to make sure. Very good. Stations, please key up.
K6G.
K6GM, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I totally agree about D-Star is so easy, and particularly with Bob's commander image, that's probably the simplest way to go. If he's dead set on multi-mode, which I guess means he's got a radio, he's got another radio in addition to DMR. Maybe he has a P25 radio, a C4 FM radio, or a DMR radio or something. And he wants to be able to use the two kinds of digital voice radios with his setup. I have not kept track of what Western D-Star Image is doing with multi-mode. It could be that they've added it since I last looked. I know that when I was testing last year, I took a Western D-Star Image and I added the MMDVM software to it and got it working. So you can do it. But the whole thing about MMDVM is not for the faint of heart. It is not. If you're not an experimenter and you don't like tinkering and you don't know something about Linux, you probably shouldn't get into MMDVM yet. They have not made it for the rest of us yet. So that, it's fun. I encourage, if you like to learn, it's a good way to do that, but it is not ready to go. You've got to dig in there and configure and experiment. So that's my response back to you, Mike, K6JM.
K6G.
Got it, Jim. Yeah, MMDVM is not for the, as you say, the faint of heart or someone new. When they work pretty well. You can fire them up and there's D-Star and off you go. But it's not for the uninitiated. It's certainly not for the newbie, at least not the ordinary newbie, so to speak. K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, well, if he wants to jump in, probably the first thing to do is to get the Raspbian image, and you go to Raspberry Pi org, I think, has some links where you can download the Raspbian Jessie or Raspbian Jessie Lite to put on the board. Then, once he does that, if he signs up to the MMDVM Yahoo group, which requires approval, but I think it's pretty standard. In the files area, there are instructions to download to load up, to get and configure the the MMDVM software. That requires knowing Linux and downloading it from GitHub and following the instructions. So at least in this way of doing it, you have to be pretty familiar with Linux and dealing with images. But that's you can point him to those two places. The Raspbian, I think it's Raspbian.org to get the operating system, and then to the MMDVM Yahoo group to get the instructions on how to add the software. So back to you, Mike.
K6JM, go ahead.
One other comment, and then I really am going to have to go, Mike, but there are some images out there that are specializing in MMDVM software. And so if you're mostly into D-Star, I would recommend the W6KD Commander image. But if you want multi-mode right now. There's a KB5R AB, I think it is. I don't have it in front of me. Image and a Utah image. And those have good reputations in the multi-mode world. Adrian VK4TUX has a terrific image, but I don't know how easy it is to get. I have one, but I've worked with Adrian over the years, and I don't know if he was just helping me out because he knows me more or what. So I'll mention that he has one, but I don't know how easy to get. So that's what I would do personally, is get the Utah or the KB5RA image and go from there. That's all I have to contribute, and I do have to pull the plug. The dinner bell has finished ringing until 73, but continue on and have a good time, Mike, in the net. This is K6JM.
No problem, Jim. We appreciate your participation and enjoy dinner. Stations, please key up.
AA0.
AA0RX, go ahead.
Yeah, roger that. I appreciate the advice from the two stations there, and appreciate a lot K6KD and K6JM there. Yeah, this guy, I've told him ad infinitum. I can't even tell you how many times I've advised him K6KD. I mean, W6KD's D-Star Commander. He even set him up with a Pi. It works fine. He's able to link and unlink everything, and he's experimenting. He's an older guy, but he keeps buying this Gigaparts box, and he's got unlimited funds, and he just keeps buying this stuff. And it's supposed to be already pre-programmed for NMDVM, and every time he kicks the thing on, it never works out of the box, and he's asking me for tech advice. So it's been a bit of a head-scratcher and a major kind of a headache, actually. But anyway, I just appreciate the ability to ask the question here for the issue there. AA0RX, back to that.
Well, let me see if I can focus this discussion a bit and get some more discussion going. You know, the subject that we're talking about is we have to recognize really the fast pace with which multi-mode devices and software are evolving from the efforts of both manufacturers and experimenters. And there is an increasing interest in them by non-experimenters. And, you know, does that require we reevaluate how inclusive a net like ours should be? And so does this mean that as a, you know, constellation of X reflectors and a D-Star basic, but, you know, open source, we will entertain open source modes, does that mean that we will now or eventually have to offer multi-mode and, you know, maybe even eventually cross-mode, although I'm a bit leery of that because there is a reason why we're D-Star Net and have been for a very long time. But multi-mode services, be it a reflector, well, that would be about it, I guess. Or is really the interest in the purchase of these devices, which are eclipsing the single-mode D-Star only hotspot and access devices, is really the interest in the stations? Is it making those connections on the devices in the shack and not having it you know, out there on a reflector? There's a lot of resistance to cross-mode operations on some systems, but then most of the other systems, the users, and when I say this, I have to limit it to the western part of the U.S., the operators don't have any control over the repeater or reflector connections when they go beyond just D-Star. And is it that we should continue with the mode that this constellation and this net is taken, and that the users have absolute control over it. We always offer on the XLX3s, have them go play with it, try to knock it down. We'll put it back up. I can't imagine that happening, but we don't put any stop on it, except that, you're not going to be on D-Star and then take this off onto DMR some other place. But there's really a lack of certainty in my mind, and in many other minds of those that work hard to make D-Star repeaters and reflectors and nets available. In just a minute. Is the incursion of these in the increased popularity of these multi-mode devices, is it that they want to put them to use on reflectors, and should we offer that? Or is it that they just want to use them to make their connections at home to reflectors and networks and whatever, and not have to be dependent upon a reflector that offers multi-mode capabilities? Or are people looking, for example, for a sandbox of sorts? I hate to use this word sandbox because it's almost a term of art. And it isn't intended to mean just for the highly seasoned, high-end experimenters, but a place where multi-mode DBM repeaters and other operators can go play. Or do we just stand as we have as hardcore D-Star users attracted, to the wonderful nature and ever-expanding and exciting world of D-Star? D-Star will never, ever be pushed aside. So, the purpose of this is in recognition of, for example, the MMDBM repeaters and these multi-mode devices, which seem to be, are going to be the norm. What do we do about them? What do we offer? Do we do as a net and as a constellation of extra reflectors? Do we just let the world slide by, and if we become irrelevant, okay, and if we don't, fine too? Or do we look to provide a way for multi-mode device users to use multi-mode devices in modes other than D-Star? And don't compare us to any of the system. I'm not talking about that junky way of cross-connecting everything, including the telephone line and analog and stuff like that, and having no control over it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just as I discussed. What do you think? Should we just not even worry about it? But somebody new walking into a store, buying an open spot, and then looking to see where they can put it to use, do we have a reason to participate and offer something? That's the issue. Stations, please key up.
36TB.
By the way, if this is a non-topic, free to key up and say, Mike, this is of zero interest, but I don't think so. This has been a continuing discussion, not just here, but across D-Star land. Anyway, K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, Mike, well, I think you're really discussing four topics that are separate but interrelated. One is the multi-mode devices, two is the experimentation, three is which mode, and four cross mode, which is, I don't think, is all that great. As far as the multi-mode devices, I think the big popularity for those is really cost. Aside from the fact that they're multi-mode, I mean, you buy a multi-mode device for $140 or whatever versus the $300 for a DVAT, and so they're going to be popular just right off the bat. So as far as experimenting, and particularly not just with brand new devices, but brand new firmware, because we sometimes see on the here on the Constellation interesting issues that occur when one of the devices gets a firmware update. So as an aside, I mean, we could go off on a whole other topic, for this, but we have additional reflectors that people can, I mean, they can play on these reflectors, but if they really want to, something where there's no holes barred, we have additional reflectors. We also have a fusion reflector, which is, can be used as well for experimentation. As far as which mode, I think, I think D-Star for a good infrastructure it can't be beat. But, we've got to be honest that Fusion is now open source, because we can get multi-mode hotspots, MMDVM, with now the Fusion reflectors. We don't even need to do anything with wires, and use those and link just the same way we do with D+. So we can't, I don't think we should tout those as good alternatives to, move away from D-Star by any means. But for experimentation, it is open source, which, I don't think the same can be said for DMR. Certainly Brandmeister is not, you can't build your own Brandmeister server. And just the last thing, as far as cross mode, most of the people I know don't like it. There were experiments that were done, a few of us were involved with 4 years ago with, cross-linking analog with D-Star, and, most people, once the novelty wears off, it's certainly not anything you want to have for, a 2 or 3 hour net. And as far as the DMR to D-Star, it doesn't sound good. They've done that a lot in Europe with the XLX reflectors, and there's a board called an Up4Dog board that's made in Germany, and they just plain don't sound good. So, and there's some issues behind that. But anyway, I guess back to the main thing is the big. Sorry about that timing out. So I was just wrapping it up. The main driver, I think, for the multi-mode devices is cost. Back to you, Mike.
All right, John, appreciate it. Well, I mean, I just mentioned cross-mode passing. I mean, that really isn't what we're talking about here. We're talking about how do we take advantage of the the fast-moving and evolving multi-mode device market. Is there anything that we need to do? Do we just say, well, look, flip it on D-Star and, come see us? Of course, you let the cat out of the bag, John, that, the Roundtable Constellation, and as, we like to call ourselves the Kings of Digital. By the way, that's trademarked. We quietly move along, and a fusion reflector has been stood up, YSF002.dstar.club, and there's a bunch of reflectors, and K6KD has to be given credit for putting up most of them. I don't know, I don't understand where this guy has time to do all this stuff, but we've got a lot of things that are up that aren't public, but are getting in the ready because we do not want to be behind the curve. And part of not wanting to be behind the curve is, not wanting to just ignore these multi-mode devices. But I'm not really certain that whether the owners of these devices are looking for a bunch of reflectors to use them with to go from A to B, or is it that the D-Star guys want to do more than just D-Star, or is it that we just leave the multi-mode device operators alone because they're going to use those devices at the shack to do all the connections they want? And maybe I'm not worried about maybe none of this matters. Although it has to matter because, as John pointed out, D-Star only hotspot is more expensive than many of these multi-mode devices, and the new one's coming out. It's all the, they have all the codecs, all the transcoding. They got all the, bells and whistles, and the DV4 home is a big to-do for many. And it's a big leap in the multi-mode devices, and it's not stopping there. People are buying this stuff. HRO is selling this stuff, these devices. So, how do we make them usable? Do we need to do anything with our reflectors in this net? We talk about them, but we don't spend a lot of time on them. There aren't really any new hotspots to talk about. We're running out of things to talk about in the device area. Thankfully, there's Kenwood's new radio. I'm completely disappointed with the Icom radios. I don't think they're worth talking about. Of course, that's not my call. If you guys think they're great, we'll talk about them. But I noticed that, I get yawns when I ask about the ID51 Plus 2, and I get crickets about the ID4100, where long before the D74 was even remotely available, before it was even displayed as a prototype, we were taking up hours on the nets talking about it. And and these devices, I call for them, and we always get a conversation on them. I didn't call for many of them. In fact, I didn't call for any of them tonight, but still. That's kind of what I thought would be a topic, but maybe, everybody just wants us to do what we think is best and offer it up and say, here you go. But, there's even EVM repeaters that are connected to this, to the Constellation, to our reflectors. They're there. Now, they're not cross-mode, but they're going to become the norm. So, I agree with John. It's a mishmash. I don't know about don't even count cross-mode in here, because I've got some issues with that as well. But that's not really what we're talking about. So, let's see where this goes. I can take a beating. It's happened before. Stations, please key up.
AA0RX.
AA0RX, go ahead.
AA0RX returning with a comment about the Kenwood 74A. It's a very costly radio, but it's a very user-friendly for D-Star radio. Wouldn't ever give mine back or sell it. It's nice. You just push to talk, and you push either 3 buttons or 4 buttons, and you can hook to any reflector anywhere with a DV Mega board, a Raspberry Pi hotspot, and the W6KD D-Star Commander image. If you haven't experienced that, you need to. Most people here, I think, have. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. But enough of that. I do think it's interesting to talk about these new devices you're talking about, especially the open spot. Specifically the K7REX, who has been experimenting with his for quite some time. And a friend of mine who's in this net may be listening, K0NGA, who is kind of new over here, but he has one open spot working on DMR and one on D-Star. It would be nice to get these guys discoursing and find out how they like their open spots and compare that with, for say, like a DV Mega Raspberry Pi configuration. So lots has changed, and of course with W6KD's image, it's very easy to access and get onto all the different reflectors with a DTMF tone into the radio. So just mostly reflection and talking about what's going on around here. There's a couple of stations in here that might have some knowledge. I know K7REX and maybe K0NGA can be introduced there and talk about their open spots and see if they like those things. That's all I have for you. AA0RX.
Well, there's no question that, they're well liked because people are buying them. and they're ordering of stuff, even when they're being slapped around the face by the manufacturer, being told, well, they're not quite ready, and you can't ship yet. And people take that kind of abuse for some of the multi-mode devices. And, out the gate when they first were made, we got some real, they weren't well done. But now they are. They're progressing. So it's not so much whether you like them. It's what do you want out of them? What do you want from a net and a group like we have here to support them? Or do you want us to just carry on and let you guys, but I have a difficulty with just doing nothing because, our trademark and our stock and trade is not standing still. We never have, but then we don't, we don't slap things together and try to rip it together stuff that doesn't fit just to say that, well, you can go from A to B to D. I mean, that's stupid, and frankly, I don't even understand why anybody does that. That's not what I'm talking about. And there's a lot of plans that we can do, but we're here for you. All right, let's see if this goes anywhere. Otherwise, I'm gonna call it quits on that and move on. But maybe this is a topic that is not quite ripe for a net. Stations, please key up.
W6 WE5EKU.
I have W6KD and WB5EKU. First to Bob, W6KD. Go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. First of all, as far as the net goes, you have to have a D-Star radio and the ability to get to the X reflectors to participate in the net. So having a multi-mode, turn it into a multi-mode free-for-all is probably a moot point, just because there aren't going to be, I think, a lot of folks that are focused outside of D-Star. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but the thing that I'm the most concerned about is fragmentation. I mean, we already see it to some degree with the large number of reflectors and reflector modules and different kinds of reflectors. There's already been some, dilution, if you will. Where there once upon a time were, probably a half a dozen or less very busy REF reflectors, and not a lot of activity outside that. Definitely tapering way off quickly. At least with those, it's just a matter of flipping a switch on your radio to go to one of the other ones, or maybe sticking a different image on an SD card and loading it in your Pi. But it doesn't require you to go down to the store and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a new radio. So I'm not sure how many folks are going to end up, in multiple baskets, if you will, in the digital radio world. So I'm partial to D-Star. I don't think anybody who's listened to this net more than once has any questions about that. But I don't think steering people, or even I don't think that even tacitly steering people to the other modes helps our cause here. I think it dilutes the D-Star user base, and some of the people who end up, going to the Fusion or the DMR world will go there and we'll never see them again, and we'll have helped put them there. So I see it as shooting ourselves in the foot. And for that reason, I have been completely resistant to doing any kind of work with making D-Star Commander work with multi-mode software or otherwise crossover into that world, because I think that it contributes to even more dilution and spreading people out to the point where, two or three of your friends hang out on a particular reflector, and that's all you talk to, and that's that's the whole world you're in, because everybody's spread out, reset. So anyway, that's sort of my opening gambit on that. Anyway, I'm not a fan. The net, I think, will take care of itself just by virtue of the fact that you have to have D-Star to get in. So yeah, maybe there'll be some sidebar discussion. I'm not too worried about it being taken over because you have to have a D-Star radio to get in. I agree with John. The multi-mode hotspots, in particular the DV Mega, is much cheaper than the D-Star only products, which are pretty much the iNet Labs DVAPs. The DVAP is twice the price of a DV Mega, and the DV Megas with the latest firmware are capable of doing some of the multi-mode stuff. Although you still have to have a bunch of different radios to make that all work. So, yeah, that's my opening comments. I got to think about it more to formulate maybe better argument, but you can chalk me up as being absolutely not a fan of this idea.
Excellent points. And you know me, I love D-Star, and I don't have a single multi-mode anything, and there's a reason for that. Not that I hate them, but I wouldn't use them. But that's just me, and that doesn't reflect upon where we can be if we need to, if we want to do something more, better, different. It's really up to those that participate, listen to, and make use of this net. It could be that this is a big nothing burger, and people with multi-mode devices will be here, and they'll do their thing on their time, and they don't need help from us, so to speak. Thank you, Bob. WB5EKU. God, I'm glad you checked in. I was starting to break out in a sweat. We wouldn't hear from you. Go ahead.
10-6 in the net, WB5EKU. Yeah, I'm sorry. Something came up. I had to do it this evening, and I just got in. And I turned it on right as you were turning it over to Bob, but I kind of got the gist of his of the topic. I'm actually not going to really comment much on this right now. A couple of reasons. Number one, I really hadn't had a chance to really listen to the net. The only thing I want to throw out there is I run a multi-mode repeater. Okay, I do have other modes. The reason being is because I love to experiment. But I got to tell you, I'm on the D-Star net every week, and D-Star is by far my go-to mode. I'll play with some of the other modes. There's a couple of things I am just understanding about some of the modes. That's how I look at amateur radio. I experiment. I cannot ever see myself leaving D-Star. D-Star is the primary mode. D-Star is the primary mode on K6PUW repeater that I run. It is an open machine. So, other than that, that's about all I have to say at this point. Mainly because I do have the multi-mode repeater. D-Star forever. Long live D-Star. Viva la D-Star. N6HKH, WB5EKU.
K6K.
Well, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your input as always. K6KD, go ahead.
Well, I agree with both Don and Bob as far as being a champion of D-Star. And, if when the question of different modes come up, I always point out the advantages of D-Star. That said, though, if we have other facilities and we allow people to even discuss those other modes, I really don't think they're going to go take their D-Star radios and throw them in the trash and have the exterminators come and fumigate whatever rooms that they stored your D-Star equipment in. I don't think that's going to happen. If we are real purists about it and say that people are going to experiment. Whatever policies we want to establish, people are going to experiment about it. Are going to experiment. If we make it so they're unwelcome to discuss experimentation, they're probably gonna go talk to other people in D-Star where they feel that they can talk about it. It's not an either-or thing. I mean, I'm not just saying turn everything over to multi-mode. I mean, the emphasis here is on D-Star, but the fusion reflector that I built, people can use it, and I feel comfortable saying it. We're not dwelling on it. We're not going through detailed instructions on how to link to the fusion, repeater. But I think it serves us, this constellation, this net, and D-Star, if we don't slam the door on it and make people feel unwelcome to do things that they're going to do anyway, most likely. Yeah, back to you, Mike.
All right, well, that's pretty funny. Well said. Thank you, John. Stations, let's hear from you. Please key up.
KK6PR.
KK6PR, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mark and the net. I just want to make a quick there is a case to be made for at least, always having the capability for multi-mode, and that's, for emergency communications and stuff. So, you're not going to benefit by, just being D-Star, only, or, trying to limit that capability of not, communicating with other modes, but I just wanted to bring that up. KK6PR.
Well, that is a topic that at some point we'll discuss, because we don't talk enough about the capabilities of D-Star in emergency communications, and especially given the increasing recognition of the digital modes. And so in the event of emergencies, we should be talking about all the things that can be put into play, ranging from satellite right on down to, the core D-Star, and where do the other modes fit into it. I mean, but that's another discussion for another time. All right, anyone else have any thoughts? I mean, don't even think for a moment that we're going to kind of water down D-Star. That is not what I've said, and that certainly is not our intent. John did a pretty good job in explaining it, that at least one approach, and that is we don't shy away from multi-mode and talking about the other modes and the things that we're doing. We're certainly working behind the scenes to provide things for modes other than D-Star, but as far as the net is concerned, you guys are going to have to come in here and drag me away to turn this into a multi-mode net. That is not going to happen. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. So, all right, anything further? Let's hear from you now, or we'll, if nothing is heard, we'll move on. But we're still here on this topic, so last call for that. Please key up. PD2, MNQ, welcome to the roundtable. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mike and the net. Name is Jason. I'm actually a very new ham, and hopefully I can offer an interesting perspective here. This is probably only my fourth time transmitting over the air, so the newbie with the just getting over the mic fright and all that.
I love the roundtable here. I listened to the podcast, and kind of is what turned me on to D-Star as I was investigating the hobby to begin with. And I should just check. Can you hear me? Am I making it through? I'm only this is the first time I'm operating a DV4 Mini.
You've got a great signal. Continue.
Great. And the roundtable, your discussions are fantastic, very informative, and very welcoming source of information for a newbie. And as far as the multi-mode devices go, someone made the point of the price point, and it's a very good point, it's a very valid point. Investigating what option I was going to go, because I'm just outside of New York City, and there is a repeater I can hit if I'm standing outside my house with my HT, but if I'm in the house, I need to use a device, a dongle of sorts, and the price point of the DV4 Mini was the driving factor for me, not the fact that it was a multi-mode device. As far as bringing more people into D-Star that are using those multi-mode devices, my suggestion would be make it a little bit more idiot-proof for the young guy to set up this device and get onto D-Star. Doing some Google searches, you'll find a lot of DMR resources out there connected to this particular device. If you like.
We realize that multi-mode devices like DMR start saying, it was a DMR, the radio, even though it was so at the gauge mode, it really wasn't. And it's $100 for DMR users. And so, that's understandable. And maybe the position that we should take is look. We're not going to shy away from talking about multi-mode devices. This is a D-Star and open digital net. So, we will let stations talk about it. They can even mention the other modes. We're not going to stop on them like, used to be the case some time ago. But then again, DMR has had a black eye to it for some time, and it's starting to finally, they're getting the stake on it, and it's starting to come away. But it's not bad to mention DMR. Just as in DMR, they refuse to mention D-Star. So, maybe that's just all we need to do. But, there's a lot of ways that we can encourage people to remain in the hobby. We're not going to chase anybody away. We just can't cover everything. It's just impossible. We appreciate you being with us. You got a great signal. Welcome to the hobby, and thanks for being on D-Star. Stations, please key up.
AB4MM.
AB4MM. Welcome. Go ahead.
Good evening to everyone sitting around the round table tonight. I've really enjoyed listening. I've heard some very good discussion tonight. I started out in D-Star using a radio only. I was one of those poor sats who tried to learn D-Star by learning on an ID880, and I nearly quit D-Star because of it, just because I had no clue. But I got through it, and D-Star is my first love, and it will always be my first love. I got into a multi-mode device with hotspots. I started out with the D-Star Commander image. Thoroughly enjoyed that, and tried the DVM image, and decided, okay, I want to experiment. So as I got into it, I was an experimenter. So I'm using D-Star and DMR. Let me let it break there just a moment. What I was going to say about this net covering other modes, there are so many resources out there with Facebook and with YouTube if someone wants to really ask a bunch of questions about the other modes, there are other resources available. As far as promoting other modes, I think the modes will stand up for themselves. D-Star has its strengths, and it's designed for amateurs, and that's why it's so popular, and that's why it took such a lead. DMR was always a commercial mode that we've always been trying to adapt, and that's created some issues. Fusion, that's Yaesu doing their own thing. Good modes, but again, there's a reason why D-Star has done so well with it, the linking capability, the reflector capability. So I think it's going to take care of itself. I just really, really think you're not going to have to worry about it. Just keep the focus on the D-Star, answer the questions as they come up, just be kind about it. But again, I think most people who are using the multi-mode devices, they're doing it for experimentation purposes. I don't think they're looking at regular or full-time heavy-duty use there. Thank you so much for having me. This is AB4MN back to net.
Well said, and well taken. Thank you. Stations, please key up.
A0.
A0RX, go ahead.
Yeah, just some quick comment. Open source is my favorite mode, and open source should equal open discourse about all the stuff we're talking about. So I think everybody here has a very open mind to discoursing about all these things. So anyway, that's my observation. Yeah, it's a quick one. Back to that. AA0RX.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? Key up now. All right, anything you heard? Well, guys, I appreciate it, and everyone's opinion is going to be taken into consideration, and by that I mean that we're not making any changes, and it's unlikely that, D-Star is going to be any less apart. Right now it's just about 100%, if not 110. And we, the people that are here, the people that participate, the people that listen, they love D-Star. I mean, obviously, if you hate D-Star, you wouldn't be around it, and you wouldn't listen to a podcast, and you wouldn't want to be anywhere in the vicinity. But at the same time, anyway, you've heard what I'm seeking, and I've had your input, and I appreciate it. I guess it's more of a, what do you think, as opposed to, a real hard topic, but it's something that was important to me, and it's, has been a continuing topic of discussion on the air, at times other than the net, so I'm glad we had the chance to hear from those that aren't always around during the day talking on D-Star on the Constellation. So at this point, I think we should do what we usually do much earlier, which is to open it up for your questions and your topics, and we kind of call this an open segment where things that matter to you, we take those questions, and if you have a topic you want to start or want to maybe suggest, we've had several. R2D2, we're going to talk about that at length on a future roundtable, if not the next one. And but you can start a topic, or more importantly, if you have a question that you'd like to have answered, don't worry about what you've heard about thus far. Worry about what's on your mind and what you need to have answered. We usually do this a bit earlier, but couldn't tonight, and probably shouldn't tonight. So stations sometimes are, listening to other nets, and they have questions that can't be answered, and they tell them, come on over here. In fact, sometimes we have other nets that are running that now have probably long quit, and stations will come here, ask them a question, and take it back to the other net, and that's fine. We get it, but we haven't offered that capability. So here it is. What do you have on your mind? What questions do you need to have answered? This is it. here and now. Stations, please key up.
KB7C.
KB7 CSW. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, Mike, to you and everybody else that's listening here. Hope everybody's doing well. Mine should be fairly easy. I just have a quick net control question. Obviously, if you're net control and taking check-ins and they do a voice check-in, you can write it all down. But my question is and I've posed this question on a couple of different nets as well, just so I can get a well-rounded perspective on this. But your net is a quickie net. What is it that you use to track the check-ins, so quickly, other than, like a dashboard takes a while for them to refresh? Looking at the screen of the radio, especially if there's a whole bunch of people quickie-ing real fast, radio's not going to keep up. So what is it that you're using to keep track of, the real-time quickies as post check-in?
Got it. Well, I use DV Note for Windows, aka WinDV, on a dongle on a PC. And so I transmit on the dongle, which using the call history screen, and I haven't finessed a bit, but I see the doubles, I see every call, and the only time that I don't is when there's a very unusual set of circumstances, which occurred last Thursday, but it just rarely occurs. So anyway, WinDV on a dongle. Then I listen on, I listen back on the dongle, but I also listen on a 2820, and I've got another 2820 that is just set to let me know when my signal drops, because I'm not staring at it, nor am I, while I'm transmitting, I'm not listening. So it's the standard. I use 1.5.8, and if you open up the call history window, you can follow along, and you get to see all that I see, but you also have to keep track of the third screen, or the third portion of the main app window, to keep track of the calls that are transmitting and the dupes, that is the doubles, and the quick keying that comes across, but every single one of them shows up in the call history. That's why nobody gets away with anything, quite frankly. So that's it. Did that answer your question? Back to you.
Yes, it did, and that's I think the general consensus is using the dongle in the history. Now, is that which one in particular are you using? I've got a DVAP. Now, would that work and do the same thing? One of the other net controls I asked if they were using the blue dongle. Would a DVAP work for the same thing?
No, not for net control. The blue dongle is required.
Okay, very good. That has completed the questions that I have thus far. I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for the time you spent with me and for everything you do for everybody else on the net. Have a great evening. I'll be listening. KB7CSW.
No problem. And if you guys just happen to be looking at what I'm looking at, you would have seen that W6KD and K6KD doubled. W6KD showed up on the call history, but I caught K6KD, and I don't have to announce that he's doubled. I just add him to the list. I do have a handwritten list that I use to show the stations in the order, especially if I have to take them out of order. I do listen on a DVAP, so I'm not saying DVAPs are bad. But in all the time I've been net control on this net, and I won't even embarrass myself to talk about some of the analog things I did. The stick with D-Star. I have yet to find a better replacement or a better call history or a better setup than WinDV and a and a dongle, the Blue device, for the primary, but you can't use that at all. It just isn't going to cut it. So thanks for asking, and thanks for being with us. Okay, I got W6KD and K6KD. W6KD beat out John, so he goes first. W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that the Northwest Digital Thumb DV works the same as and just as well as the Blue dongle, and it's quite a bit cheaper. So if you're going to go out and buy a computer-based dongle device, make sure you look at both of those, because functionally they're really equivalent. And the Northwest Digital was quite a bit cheaper last time I looked. So back to that, W6KD.
Oh, Bob, thanks for pointing that out. I have a Thumb DV here as well, and I think I'm looking at it. It's $99. Well, I think it's $109 now, but when I bought it, it was $99, and it does everything that the Blue dongle does, and I have used that at times, and it is actually part of my backup hotspot. Thank you for reminding me of that. And actually, what I'm doing most of it with is trying to get it to work with Buster on my Mac, and it's just not as smooth as we've had this discussion, and nobody has any answers. But actually, we're going to talk about Buster and Thumb DV in a couple of weeks, because there's been some stations that have broken through the mystery of you can listen but you can't transmit, or the reverse that stations are experiencing. And I think that they finally come up with an answer. K6KD, go ahead. Oh, hang on.
KB2MNQ.
All right, well, we had a bunch of stations come through that doubled when I called for K6KD, and I'm recognizing ZL1SB and KD2MNQ. So, John, I'm assuming that you didn't press transmit and decided to let these other stations fly through. If not, I'll wait for you to unkey, but K6KD, go ahead.
No, I just didn't quick key. So no, I was just going to comment and say exactly the same thing about the Thumb DV. There was also, I don't know if this is still made or if it's even the same function, but there was a Star DV that came out about the same time as the Thumb DV. I think it was a dongle type system. I don't know if it's still being made. And the only other comment I was going to make is you were talking about some of the old devices. And maybe another net, Mike, you might describe about how your net control with the Marconi smart transmitter with the Leyden jars. So anyway, back to you.
Yeah, I get depressed when I talk about ancient history, but nice try. So, we've got a new station, ZL1SB. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Roger there, Mike. Sorry, I had the wrong call sign in there. I was experimenting earlier. Brian here, ZL1HN. I have tried to get in a few times. I've been out and about in the car, but I don't know why I didn't manage to get through to you there. I was just going to mention, you talked about the cost of the ICOM 51 plus 2. Now, I've done a bit of analysis on that. You know, ICOM has been whacked over the knuckles for supplying 5100s without cradles and having to supply them for extras and everything. Well, obviously on this product, they've decided to
throw everything in. So while it is a dearer radio than a standard 51, it comes with an RS-232 USB adapter, comes with all the different leads that you'll need for hooking it up to use it in terminal mode. All those components are available separately, and many of us have had to buy them to program their 51s. And the cloning software is freely available for download. So when you add up those factors, the price is pretty much the same. Mike, over.
Oh, okay, Brian, and yeah, as soon as you started talking, I went, oh, okay, I get it this time. It's another undercover Brian, but thanks for correcting the call to ZL1HN. And also in reference to K6KD's comment about Star DV, yeah, that's out of manufacturer. It had a run, but it ended, and I don't remember how much they sold for. And they're not currently available except on the used market. You can see them, catch them on eBay or QRZ and a couple of other places. But they were a unique device, and they were an option as well. I just don't recall how much they cost. But at this point, you can't buy them new anyway. So wherever you can get them for on the used market, I'm sure that they're a good value. Brian, thanks for being with us. Next up, KD2MNQ. Go ahead.
That wasn't quite what I was talking about, Mike.
I'm sorry, that was actually an inadvertent PTT touch there as I was moving about the house and moved the radio from hand to hand. But I'll just use this as an opportunity to say thank you for the conversation. This net is something I enjoy listening to and look forward to being involved with in the future. So thank you very much, and I'll be listening. KD2MNQ, thank you.
WB5EK, you recognize, and also ZL1HN, I caught that. KD2MNQ, thanks for the kind words, and welcome back anytime. And, inadvertent key-ups happen, and we just simply ask the stations to let us know as you did, and we'll take you off the list and move on. Now, first of all, back to ZL1HN, maybe I spoke too fast. I was responding to a question that a station prior to you had about a device. I know that you weren't talking about Star DV, but if you want to clarify in case I screwed up in some manner what device you were talking about, I'll give it to you, Brian, for that, and then we'll pick up the stations that keyed up after you. So ZL1HN, go ahead.
Onto there, Mike. Yes, well, what I was trying to clarify earlier in the net when I couldn't get in, I tried, but I didn't get in for some reason, maybe half an hour ago now, there was discussion about the extra dollars for the ICOM 51 plus 2 radio and the increase in price. What I was pointing out was if you take the price of an ICOM 51 plus radio, and then you purchase the cloning software and you purchase the RS-232 interface, the USB RS-232 adapter to talk to the radio, to program the radio, to run the radio in the remote mode, etc. To be able to connect it to your cell phone and send pictures and all that sort of stuff. That was all extra, and you bought it as you wanted. When you buy the ICOM 51 plus 2, all that stuff comes in the box, in the price. Over.
Yeah, I think that came across clear, and that's an important point. Assuming that, you want an ICOM, but look, I got it, and we appreciate that, Brian. I know we beat that radio up quite a bit, and it's more that we're trying to push our fist through it to beat up ICOM. as opposed to the radio. The radio itself works extremely well, but you know, it is $200 over its immediate predecessor, and you know, just for those two jolly worthless features. But in comparison to the new price of the predecessors, you know, you make a point well. So we thank you for that. WB5EKU, go ahead.
Okay, Mike, I just have a question. May I make an announcement? I checked the shout box and I haven't seen this announcement on. I don't want to interrupt anybody's flow here or jump subjects, but can I make an announcement?
Well, after giving it due thought, yes.
Well, thank you very much. And I just came upon this kind of by accident because they're not publicizing it very well. But the Las Vegas Amateur Radio Club is having a ham convention at the end of March or beginning of April. It's right after the IWCE. IWCE is International Wireless Communication Expo. And it's one of the largest two-way radio conventions around. And but apparently they're having the convention in Las Vegas. It's going to be at, and I've never heard of this one, but the East Side Cannery Casino and Hotel. The dates are March 31st, April 1st, and April 2nd. I will put this on the shout box. I don't know if anybody else has heard about it, but I just stumbled across it today. M6HKH, WB5EKU.
The East Side Cannery Hotel and Casino? Really? Okay. So what group is it that, you know, you said it's going to be in Las Vegas. Is it the Las Vegas Amateur Radio Club? Or is it that the other large two-way radio club? I'm not sure which group it is that's sponsoring the thing in Vegas. And as far as I'm concerned, a convention, hamvention, any excuse to go to Vegas is fine with me. So I'm taking notes. Go ahead.
Okay, what I have, and I haven't verified this, I have to verify it, but it's the Las Vegas Radio Amateur Club. And I'm looking up on the map, on Google Maps right now, the East Side Cannery Casino and Hotel. Like I had said, I had never, ever heard of it, but we'll see. I don't think this is an April 1st thing, but let's hope it's not.
N5SAP Las Vegas.
N5S.
Well, thank God we're going to get down to the truth of the matter. N5SAP, go ahead.
Yeah, Eastside Cannery Casino is off the Boulder Highway, way off the beaten path. Over there by how do I explain it? By Henderson, really. It's off the if you know Las Vegas, it's off the southwest, over by Boulder City. Like if you were going towards Hoover Dam. It's more of a local casino, if anything, but not bad. You know, typical casino. You know, convention center, gambling, cigarette smoke. But yeah, I've driven past it a couple of times, but I never stopped off. But it's that's where it's going to be. You know, you can check the internet, but yeah, it's just another casino. But you know, I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. It's Las Vegas, N5SAP.
Well, as we all know, Vegas is Vegas. So I just want to confirm, there is a hotel. This is not tent camping like Dayton. Back to you.
That's correct. It's one of Sam Boyd's casinos. It's it's a major casino. I mean, when I say major, it's a big casino. You could book a room. You could lose $1 million or win inside SAP.
Well, who knew? I'm going to have to ask when I go in there, who the heck came up with that name? That is just so odd. But, if it's a new casino and it's got all the usual, and especially if it's got a convention center and, as long as it's got the requisite gambling, it's all good. So I'm sure it's a bargain compared to staying at Wynn or Venetian or on the Strip. So, the Henderson area, Boulder Highway, I got a good idea. So, WB5EKU, have you pinpointed this down, or is it too new to be on Google Maps? WB5EKU, go ahead.
WB5EKU. No, it's on Google Maps. It's just looks like it's kind of south of Samstown, and it's they have 515. It's not far from there. It's in between. It's I guess east of the Boulder Highway. It's right off the Boulder Highway. They do have Google. You go to Google Street and have pictures of it. It looks like it's a relatively new hotel. I just did a quick search, and it looks like for that weekend, you're looking at anywhere from $75 to $90 room. I don't know if they have parking fees like the other hotels on the Strip do, or if they have all the other added-on fees. But I just saw it, and I thought I would mention it because it's amateur-related, and who knows what will be there.
Well, it's amateur-related and Las Vegas. I mean, that's, the important part, because as I said, any excuse to go to, of course, we make it easy. Flying out of Ontario Airport, in less than an hour, I'm rolling dice. So the drive's a bit much, but it's certainly better than driving from the East Coast. Anyway, thank you, Don, and also thanks to Scott in 5SAP for helping us out. So, I think I'm out of stations. This is the Thursday night D-Star Roundtable on the constellation of X-Reflectors, and we're in the open question, open topic, open anything segment. Stations, please key up. Well, to try to be cheery about it didn't work, so let me make plain that is there a topic that I got R2D2, that's done, and there's a couple other that, at this point, I just was checking by email, and some of the stations have already, said sayonara for the night. And we'll have to pick them up next Thursday. We didn't talk much about, yes we did, so I can't talk about that. Anyway, I've got topics, but there are topics that really need to be plowed into at an earlier part of the evening to be able to keep them rolling. So I'm going to call to see what's on your mind, what we missed. And if you'd like to comment on something you heard earlier, because you've been biting your lip or have been flicking pain, not liking what you've heard and wanting to comment on it, but hoping that maybe, the excitement of the moment needs to be passed before you feel comfortable in keying up. This is the time to take those kinds of comments and questions. So let's see where this will take us, as my throat goes to south, but thankfully I have a cough switch. It's called mic mute. No net control should be with that one. Stations, please key up. Well, perhaps we may be at the end of tonight's edition of the Thursday Night D-Star Roundtable, so let's shake the trees to see if that's so. If you are a hand sitter and don't like to key up until the end of the roundtable, this may be the time that you need to think about pulling your hands out from underneath your butt and shaking the blood back into them and considering keying up on the radio, because if you don't do it now, we may have closed it up. You know the rule. We never close down as long as there are stations that wish to participate. But all good things must come to an end at some point. So in order to test the water, to see if we're at that juncture, I have to give the fair warning. Yeah, I'm doing that now. Stations, please key up. Well, there still isn't anything. I must note that there's been several posts to the, or chats to the shout box, and we appreciate Don giving us the hot scoop on the Las Vegas Amateur Radio Club convention at the Eastside Cannery Hotel. You know, that sounds more like a restaurant in Monterey than it does a casino, but, I guess it could be called the Bloodslinging Casino, and any other kind of name, as long as it's nice and they give you at least an opportunity to try not to lose your money. That it's all good. So we appreciate that, Don. So all right, last call. This is going to be it. If nobody keys up, not that you have to, but then again, don't be shy. Stations, please key up. Well, seeing nothing, hearing nothing, I'm going to call it for tonight, and so this will be the end of this edition of the Thursday Night D-Star Roundtable here on the constellation of X-Reflectors. I want to thank all the stations who participated, because without your participation, there would be no roundtable. The shout box will be cleaned out, that is, cut and then pasted into the shout box history probably about 15 minutes or so after the roundtable concludes. So you won't lose anything, but what it does mean is that you'll have a clean slate if you wish to post things, including topics that you'd like to have discussed or follow-up discussions. Now, if you're going to do something interesting, that is, that it would draw a lot of replies, or would be like a continuing discussion, not just a one-shot thing, I would strongly recommend you go up to the top of the D-Star Roundtable Forum page, landing page, and click on the current discussions where, as you'll see, ongoing discussions that go beyond just today and are kept, for a good period of time, can be found there. It's a better place for them because the shout box is a chat room, 20 posts, and the older one is gone, and you have to go to a fixed location, which is the shout box history, and you can't really add to it. So the current discussions is a great place, but the shout box is open 24/7, and feel free to start things out there. Sometimes we get quite a lot going, and if you have questions you'd like to have posed, if you can't be with us live, or you think you're going to be not with us, then feel free to post them there. You can send suggested topics to me directly, n6hkh@me.com, if you'd like. The podcast is usually up by noon of the following day, today being Thursday still here on the West Coast, so tomorrow, will be Friday at noon, although it's usually up by then. If you have an advanced or a newer podcast app, the Shoutbox, that was the discussions posted tonight will be downloaded with the podcast, so you don't even have to go to the Shoutbox history. It's pretty cool. Let's see. I want to make sure that the stations that, you guys know this. This is not an effort by me alone, and I feel obligated to every now and then, although not too often because I don't want to, have these guys all over me. But there is a support crew that keeps this thing going, keeps it up and running, and without this crowd of guys, we just wouldn't be how we are. So I want to thank W6KD, K6KD, KK6MYS, WB5EKU, and WA6JFK for putting in voluntary time at low wages during the week to keep all parts and features and reflectors and recordings of the Roundtable available, and they do it without a word of complaint. Well, one of them complains, but, I can handle that. We'll be back here next Thursday, 7 p.m., same time and place. Take a look at the Shoutbox, the Roundtable Forum board for a list of the repeaters and X-Reflect. Everything that you can hear us on live as well as recorded is there. And now that mentally I've told myself the Roundtable is over, I have to go down the hallway. And I'm going to do that now. I'll be back a little bit later, and certainly come visit us on the constellation of X-Reflectors during the week. We're open for business 24/7. Don't try calling at 3 in the morning. But if your usual system or repeater is dead, not much happening, and or you'd like to come over and see what's cooking on the other side of the street, you're welcome. And as I said, if you like to play with the X-Reflectors or the XLX reflector, and you have any questions about them, key up here, and you get an answer, and feel free, without permission, and without having to ask first, if you know what you're doing, of course, and play with it, and we'll have more information on some of the other interesting reflector things that we have going, and when they become available, we'll have them up on the Roundtable Forum board. Anyway, I'm done. Thanks to everyone. I had a great time. I learned a lot, and I'm so excited to be on the E-Star. I love it so. Everyone have a great weekend. N6HKH. Good night.
KD02VR